Hello, everybody. This is Ron with a special episode of ZinoNation tonight. It's not ZinoNation tonight, it's AnafiNation tonight. I'm joined here with my usual co-host, Marcus Crawford from Idaho Quadcopters, and we have the very special guest, Billy Kyle, in the house tonight. And for once, Billy's going to be on a live show, and we're not going to talk about DJI drones. How about that?
That actually might be a first. I remember when the Parrot Anafi came out, I did a live stream about like what drone they could be releasing. And I remember driving into New York City and seeing it leaked. So I'm excited to talk more about the Parrot Anafi. I'm excited to talk about experiences with it.
Great. Well, let's jump right into it. No fooling around. Now, we'll kind of give you a little background. Billy will tell me if I'm wrong on any of this. The Anafi was, you heard rumors about it, I'm going to say last spring, and I think it was released on July 1st, and Billy went to a special event in New York for the premiere of it. And, it was released to somewhat lukewarm reviews by the big time YouTubers. And on that note, I'm going to throw it over to Billy.
Yeah. So, it's funny. This is the story I tell everybody whenever I talk about the Parrot Anafi. And it's funny because we're talking about no obstacle avoidance, right? What was that?
Right. Go ahead, Billy. Nobody said anything.
So we talked about no obstacle avoidance. And whenever you go to like a CES or anything related to drones, they have a cage there where they put the drones up in the cage and it's kind of making sure everybody else is safe. Well, they were just letting people fly the drones above the people standing there at the event. And one of the drones went flying into the window, crashed down probably 15 feet and almost hit me in the head. And I just remember that because everybody was saying how it wasn't durable, but I saw firsthand it hit a window probably at its full speed and dropped to the ground and it was fine.
Wow. And that was one of the first knocks about it, that a lot of the early YouTube reviewers said, oh, it's flimsy, it's not going to be durable. I heard that over and over. Of course, it's just an opinion because actually I hadn't had it long enough to prove if it was durable or not.
Yeah, and you follow the blog Drone DJ?
Yes.
So I used to write for them, and me and Hai were making like a comparison video between the Anafi and the Mavic Air. And before we could even start, he put the Anafi up in the air and was taking pictures of my Mavic Air, probably 190 feet in the air. We were in a big open field, and he got a little bit too close to me, hit my drone. The Mavic Air stayed there, but the Anafi fell from the ground. 193 feet, it fell, and it was totally fine, except the battery was a little bit swelled. So that says something.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah. What's that?
That's phenomenal. But if you look at the design, I like this thing that protects the gimbal on the front of it. And the fact that you never, ever see propellers in the picture, ever.
That's perfect. You see, that's the thing about the Anafi is that it still protects the gimbal from those two side pieces. You can look up and down. But with the Mavic Air, it's like they have the side panels. They're not little pieces. Right. Full panels, and there's like a full hood over the top. So when you're flying around, and if you're flying fast in sport mode, that gimbal will be looking down at like a 5-degree angle, which is not good in my opinion.
And another thing about the early YouTube reviews, a lot of them focused so much on the memory card. They didn't like the mechanism to have the memory card in. And I mean, and it was a valid point. I'm not saying they're wrong, but if you have a 20-minute video, I don't want to watch 10 minutes of it just talking about the memory card.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it. I've gotten used to it though, right? It's easy to just quickly unlock. I've gotten into this method where I almost like push it up, unlock it, the flap comes down, and then I kind of turn it over and throw it into my hand. Like I've gotten into this method where it's pretty easy to take out and it's pretty easy to put in. Actually, if you think about it, it's sometimes easier than trying to fit it in like the back of the Mavic Air, right? Because then you've gotta, like, if you just cut your fingernails, there's no way you're getting it inside.
Right, true. And I know why. I don't even have to ask this question. If people don't know, you could just plug your USB-C. And Billy, I know you love USB-C.
Yes.
Your computer, but it's much slower than taking the memory card out. But if you're not in a hurry, like most of the time, I'm not in a hurry. I can just plug it in. I can walk away and do something else and come back in 15 minutes, a half hour, and the files have moved over.
Well, how awesome is it that you can charge it with USB-C? I mean, all these drones have these proprietary ports. And being able to just throw it on the USB-C charger, it's easy.
You know how I charge it, Billy? I use my MacBook Pro USB charger, and that's the fastest charger I had to charge this up.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll plug it right into my computer to charge it, and a lot of times I've actually just run it off of my power bank, just charge it on the go. I mean, that's the easiest way.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've never, we're all three DJI fans here and own a bunch of DJI drones, and I've never understood why they have not jumped on the USB-C bandwagon, particularly with the controller. You know how everybody's messed up that little
Yes.
on the controllers. Yeah.
I would think that might come down to like production cost. I mean, they've already got the remote designed. Granted, they make these little changes, like with the Mavic Pro, you have the screen. The Mavic Air, you've got a different button set, no custom buttons on the back. So there are those differences, but I wonder like how much it would cost for them to put a USB-C in. I would say the next drone that we get from them going forward, it's all going to be USB-C. I could be wrong. The Spark you can charge via micro USB, so it's kind of has the same thing as the Parrot. But I've gotten to the point now where I don't carry really anything other than a USB-C port, and of course the Lightning port. Or the Lightning charger. I've got to carry that with me for my phone.
Right. I didn't get to check in with WDC too much today. Did they say anything about USB-C on the next iPhone?
I don't know. I didn't get to watch it this morning. I was out working, and I've been refreshing Apple's page because I want to watch the whole entire thing all the way through. I know you can catch like little snippets, but I want to watch it from the beginning to the end. And I've been looking, and I just refreshed the page. It says the video replay of today's events will be displayed shortly. So,
well, I watched the CNET highlights.
Yeah.
There's some pretty cool stuff coming, particularly with the iPad having its own operating system will be cool. And then I'm telling you what, if they can get this freaking thing to recognize my face 30% faster, like they say,
yeah,
wow,
that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Now, something I'd like to see for the Anafi is, I know we're talking about the drone itself, but I don't really like the controller. What do you guys think? I feel like it's a little bit too small for my hands.
I don't dislike it. I mean, I haven't used it enough to give you like my full review of it, but I don't dislike it. And Marcus, he'll tell you he likes the flippers better than the scroll wheels.
They're nice.
Okay, look. So I love it and I hate it at the same time.
Oh yeah, Marcus has a tale of woe coming.
Yeah. Well, it cost me about $400 on this thing because it fell out of that holder and broke the screen. So that cost me as much as the damn drone, right? But those flippers for controlling the gimbal, that so rocks. I like that so much better than the dial. And listen, I really like watching your videos, Billy, because you just put that drone wherever you want it to.
Thank you.
That is not me. I am fumble fingered, but that Parrot it's as smooth. Let's see. I'm going to say it this way. It's as smooth as the Mavic 2. I really like the Mavic 2. The Parrot is the only other drone that I think comes close in the smoothness of the controls.
I agree. And
go ahead, Billy. Go ahead.
I want to comment on that flipper one more time, the paddle, whatever you want to call it. The way that I control the Parrot, right, is on the back. I actually put it in between my two fingers, so I get both fingers, and you can really move it up and down slowly. So rather than having to use that grip on the wheel on like a Mavic 2 or a Phantom, if you put that like paddle in between your two fingers, you get like the smoothest gimbal movements ever. It's really nice.
Oh wow, Billy's a pincher even on the paddles.
Yeah, I tried it.
That's a T-shirt of pictures on the paddle or something.
Yeah, okay, so I do pinch the paddles on the back, but the thing is with the Parrot remote, I almost find it hard to use two fingers on the sticks. It's kind of hard to wrap my hands around. I don't know. I don't hate the remote. I'm in your guys' boat. I don't hate it, but at the end of the day, I think it's probably out of like the Mavic and the Phantom, that's third in my book.
And I know some of the early YouTube reviewers that kind of poo-poo the Anafi like the controller.
Really, that's funny.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of bad things about the Anafi at first too, and especially from Ken Dono, Original Dobo. When I was talking to him, he went out and he bought it from Best Buy, and when we were texting on the side, he's like, "This drone is just not good." He actually ended up returning the drone just because it really wasn't all that great. I think he made like a quick video about it, returned it just because he couldn't see himself flying it anymore. But when I was flying it with him recently, he was like, "Wow, this drone's gotten a lot better. Like it's so much better than when I originally flew it." So,
we talk about that a lot, about how you know, somebody will get a drone like the Anafi and they'll fly it a couple times, do a review, but they won't like revisit it in 6 months, where the firmware updates have drastically improved it. Like,
yes,
drone, you're right. This drone is obviously not the same drone that Ken flew
no,
in July last summer. The firmware updates have really, you know, improved it over the course of time. And out of the box, everybody kind of all of us that have it remarked that the yaw was so slow on it out of the box. Did you notice that, Billy? Like on the filming,
yes,
I mean, it barely turns at
yep.
all. And even when you went sport mode, it was too slow.
Here's the cool thing about the drone is that you can really tweak how it flies. I mean, that's not something that you can do on really any drone that I know of, unless maybe you build it yourself.
Right.
But you can really tweak right within the app the maximum rotation speed. You can change how fast it inclines. I mean, they really do go into depth and give you a lot of different options, and you can change it depending on your flying style.
Right. And I thought they probably made it so slow in the yaw out of the boxes that you know, that helps that it only has a 2-axis gimbal on it.
True. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I tweeted you this, and I'm of the opinion, and I don't know if you've tested this yet, that, you know, it does HDR video, and it's kind of on by default. But
yeah,
you don't, you know, in good lighting situations, there's no real need for it. I think if you turn it off in good lighting conditions, the video actually looks better. It looks less grainy. I mean, just for people out there watching, like HDR photography, well, I'll take it back to photography. What it was meant for was, if you were in a tricky lighting situation, it would take a correct exposure, it would take a underexposure, it would take an overexposure, and it could blend it all together. So it would, you know, like darken the, you know, light in the dark areas and darken the light areas. But and the same thing would apply to HDR video. But if you're flying in the proper lighting conditions, you don't really need to have that turned on. And Marcus, he always ran out of memory on the stock 16 memory card on one flight, and that's probably because he ran entirely with HDR video, and it probably doubled the size of the card. But do you have any thoughts on that, Billy?
Well, it makes sense that it might be a larger file size. I haven't done any tests or comparisons between file sizes, and I really haven't tested like the video the video quality maybe between the two. I think that HDR almost works a little bit better for ground cameras, right? That's where you find the tricky lighting conditions. Whereas when your drone is up and over trees, I mean, those shadows can sometimes make it look better. Also, I've actually sat there before looking at like some trees with some shadows, and I flipped between HDR and regular video, just looking at my feed, and I saw no difference at all. The same thing with video that I shot. In my opinion, it's one of those features that they try to grab you on, and they're like, all right, look, we've got HDR video. No other drone has HDR video, and they're going to try to push that. And the same thing with the Osmo Action. I sat there and I tried the HDR video, and it really didn't make all that big of a difference. So I think that HDR is great for photography purposes, and especially for ground cameras. I just don't think it's really something necessary in a drone. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Go ahead, Marcus.
I just was going to say, based on Billy's remarks, I'm going to make sure I shut it off.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing, is I almost think that it's a little bit gimmicky. And at this point, again, they're just trying to grab people by saying, oh, our drone can shoot HDR video. You know, and it makes me wonder maybe in the future what true HDR video will look like and if it gets any better.
Now, what do you think about this having like 21 megapixels instead of the standard 12 megapixels in drones in this price range?
I think it's impressive, and I think that the drone takes phenomenal photos. Have you noticed, though, when you take the photos, they're really distorted and you've got to correct them? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I haven't been, you know, I haven't played a lot with the photos out of it, but just out of the camera, you know, I wasn't really impressed with them. So I'm glad you told me that you need to really put them into editing software, huh?
So there's these different options where you can shoot like a JPEG wide or just a JPEG, and the same thing with DNG. So basically, the JPEG will automatically straighten out your image, but if you shoot JPEG wide, then it's going to come out almost looking like a GoPro. It's like a fisheye almost. But the DNG, no matter what you shoot in, is going to have that what is it called? Distortion.
Okay.
So, you know, with that, they don't compress the file, so they're not going to touch it when you shoot the photo. But when you get that DNG file and you pull it into Photoshop or Lightroom, you're going to have to correct it through some sort of lens correction, which is fine with me, but it's just it's kind of weird to me. I don't know.
So that could be a software update they could address in the future to, you know, to correct that in some way. To you know, undistorted while it's being processed on the memory card.
Maybe, or it could just be because of how the camera operates. And we even see the Mavic 2 Pro, right? I mean, that video is distorted when you're shooting in the D-Log M color profile, and you have to go in there and fix it yourself, which is a huge pain.
Right, right. Yeah, and that was one of the negatives that they discovered very shortly after it was released.
Yeah.
Now, here's another rumor from last summer, too. When this was released in the beginning of July, DJI had an event scheduled in the middle of July in New York City that you and Kim had planned on going to.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the event was canceled at the last minute, and then it was rescheduled at the end of August, right?
It was at the end of August, and I don't know what you're going to say next, but a lot of people were speculating that they were going to scrap their idea and make a gimbal that did the same thing. Is that what you're going to say?
I want you to run with that in a second, but I was going to say that DJI didn't have the Mavic 2 Zoom ready to go then, or it was only going to be the Pro. And when this came out with the Zoom, they went back to the drawing board and quickly put a Zoom camera on the Mavic 2 to compete with this, because again, it has what three stops of lossless digital zoom, and then another 3 of not lossless digital zoom, but it still looks pretty good. And the two showstoppers are the camera goes all the way up, and that digital zoom, especially at this price point, it's not at an over $1,000 price point. This is at a $699 when it came out, and now $599 at Best Buy.
Yeah, and I think for that price, you get the what is it? Their Fly More kit, the extended kit, right?
We had to buy that, but it's 99 cents per app. So it cost me an extra $2.
Yeah, the $599 only gets you one battery, and
okay. Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah. Well, speaking of I guess we'll wrap up the camera, right? I think the camera's phenomenal. I think it takes great video. I think it takes great photos, and especially 21 megapixels. It's awesome, but that smaller sensor, you are limited in certain situations. Have you guys tried to fly at nighttime? It just falls apart. Also, another thing about the drone, it doesn't have many lights on it. It's just got one little blue light in the middle.
Yeah.
That's such a pain. I mean, even when I'm flying in the daytime, or when it's, the sun is setting and it's a sunset, or maybe it's a sunrise, I can't see the drone.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I haven't done much night flying yet, but you're right. That is a good point.
I haven't thought of that. I'll be honest with you.
And I'm not a big night flyer like you are. I mean, I rarely fly. I mean, at dusk somewhat, but I rarely fly when it's mostly dark.
And you know what? That coupled with how quiet it is, right? Sometimes I'll be at 100 feet and I'll be bringing it back and I'll miss it, and it'll go over my head. I'll be like, oh crap, I flew over by 100 feet and I'll have to turn around.
True.
RTH is your friend.
Yeah. This has like also the factor that we talked about with Spark. It's so small and kind of toy looking that you could easily take it to like a park where there's people around.
Yeah.
Nobody really bats an eye when you get this out and fly. But you pulled a Phantom out, everybody would be eyeballing you and maybe getting ready to call a policeman. But you get this out, and it doesn't bother anybody.
Same with the Spark. I mean, and so I recently got a Spark when they were on sale really cheap, and that's the first thing I noticed is that I could pull it out. And nobody gave it a second look, and you didn't.
No.
So it was handy. It is handy for that very reason. And the Anafi is in the same boat.
Have you guys tried the return home on the drone yet?
This one, yeah.
Look, I'm not a big proponent of return to home. I just will fly it back by myself. But the return to home on this drone is so great. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, it does the same thing. It brings it back to you. But with this drone, with the DJI drones at least, for some reason, it takes so long to engage. It's like you tell it to return to home, 10 seconds later, it begins to spin towards you, and then it waits, and then it comes back to you, and then it waits, and it hovers there at the altitude, and then it comes back down, where this drone wastes no time. It spins right around, flies right back to you, begins descending, and then just sits there and hovers there. It's like so perfect.
Yeah, you're right. The DJI drones, it's like you have to hold that button down forever before it actually starts returning home.
Okay, you guys started something here. So, Billy, one of your first videos that I ever watched that just impressed me. I'd never owned a GPS drone before. But there was one, I don't know if it was the Phantom 3, maybe it was the Phantom 4, but you were sitting in your backyard and you hit return to home and you were talking straight into the camera while the drone landed behind you. That just impressed the heck out of me. I went right out and bought a Phantom 3.
Isn't it crazy how precise that precision landing is? I mean, I could take off in an area that is, you know, as big as like a small desk or whatever, and I would be confident that it would land somewhere within that vicinity. I just think it's incredible. I mean, with the cameras it has, with the GPS knowledge it has, it's just crazy.
They've nailed it. They've absolutely nailed it. Yeah.
Now, what are you guys getting in terms of flight time? Because my flight time is awesome. Like, it's in the drone, it's in the air longer than I even want it to be. Sometimes I'm like, man, I'm landing with 30% left.
I'm averaging 19 minutes.
Yeah, me too. It's so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say around 18 to 20 minutes, but yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Anybody needs a second battery on Amazon, they're like 125. Best Buy has them for 99.
Really? That's a good price. And I mean, again, it's so easy to just charge with the USB-C cable. Once if you've got a power bank with you, once you drain a battery, you just throw it right on your power bank or whatever, and then you keep flying. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I don't want to turn this into a video talking about the X Dynamics Evolve and crapping on it, because everybody's been saying bad things about that drone. But with that, I mean, you put it in the air and 2 minutes later, you've got 80%. So not only is it about the size of the battery, but it's about the efficiency of the drone and how it's going to maintain, I guess, its flight time. I guess, I don't know.
Well, let alone Ken Heron's.
Yeah. He really just.
Oh yeah, he put it in and twisted it. Yeah.
He didn't hold back.
Yeah. Well, what was hilarious was it was right. They had so much video of that prop shoot anyway.
Yeah. It's crazy. And you know, I sit there and whenever you take your drone out, you want to make sure you're bringing, you know, your best drone, and you make sure you want to get the best photos and the best videos. And sometimes there's different tools to do the job. And I can't think of a single instance where I'd want to bring the X Dynamics Evolve out with me and film, because I just can't trust it. And that was the video I uploaded about how it's an unreliable video drone. Like, I would rather bring the Parrot Anafi in any situation over the X Dynamics Evolve. And that's saying something. The Anafi is $600. Like, you guys bought it for refurb, but you can get it even cheaper.
Yeah. And do you agree, Billy, that another reason I think the Anafi failed a little bit when it first came out is it was priced too high. It was the wrong price point.
What was it? It was it $699?
I think just with one battery in the drone.
Yeah,
and
that's
also,
too high.
And also, you had to buy the some of the special features, like we'll say the waypoints were like $19.99.
I don't know why they would do that. I don't know what they were thinking about when they did that. I mean, at the end of the day, in order to stack up with the Mavic Air, you're almost spending the same price. And although these two drones are very comparable, I think that the Mavic Air blows it out of the water. Just like you said before we started, you're like, let's wait until we start talking about the Mavic Air.
Yeah.
This summer, if you have time, you should do like a little, like, I don't know, like video comparison between the two or whatever.
I definitely like to, because again, I think that this is like a question a lot of people are asking is like, would I rather spend more money on the Mavic Air, even though the Parrot Anafi is at such a good price? And I think that right where it's at right now is perfect. And if it came out at this price, we'd probably be in a situation right now where we're not talking about why the Parrot Anafi is good to buy now, but we'd be talking about why it's still such a good drone. And, you know, maybe the release would have been better.
Right. Now, go ahead, Marcus. Go ahead.
Well, I just was going to say it's worth mentioning the resurgence in the Anafi, that you're seeing a lot more people, well, including you, Billy, for one. There's a lot more people that have discovered it. And I suspect it's because that price point has come down. And then in combination with that big Amazon sale where Ron and I bought ours, a lot of people picked them up and it's getting rediscovered. Therefore, it's getting more airplay. Therefore, more people are buying it.
Yeah, and what was I gonna say? The oh man, I forget what I was gonna say. But yeah, you know, talking about the resurgence is great, because now there might be more support for it in the future. There could be potentially more accessories. I've got to get ND filters. Do you guys have any idea?
Yeah, but I do. I got the Freewell ones off. I don't know if I got them Amazon, Best Buy. You know, that give us a pack of like 8 or whatever, and they're nice. But guess what, Billy? I hope you can check this out to see if I'm doing something wrong. You have to put them on hot. They won't pass the gimbal test.
Really?
And even I can't even get the cap to pass the gimbal test on mine. And I've like, recalibrated the gimbal. But yeah, you put them on and it won't pass the test. I mean, I just put them on hot and they're fine. But the freewheel ones, they look as light as they could possibly be. There's nothing to them at all. I can't imagine the Polar Pros could be any lighter than these freewheel ones.
That gimbal's very sensitive.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, what did we do wrong here, guys? We got 7 thumbs downs.
Jeez, what?
Let's get some more thumbs down. Let's get a little controversial with the Anafi.
Yeah, right.
What do you think of the recent story that the U.S. government is going to use these, I guess, military purposes over DJI drones because of the whole Chinese spying stories that go around nowadays, like Huawei's, of course, a target of the government, and now apparently DJI is.
Well, I think it's a good idea. Not knocking on any Chinese companies, but there is always the risk of a foreign nation impeding on our privacy. And I don't know. I don't know too much about this whole thing about privacy. I know that Huawei is now banned. But I see that the French are our allies, and they've been our allies for a while. And I think that being able to purchase certain things for military use from our allies is a good thing, not only because it'll support their economy, but also because we're getting a good product in return. And you think about it, I mean, what other drone manufacturer is there to purchase these from? I mean, you want to go with someone who's been in the industry for a while. Parrot has been making drones forever now. They're some of the first drones I saw in like the Apple store. They were the little toy ones, but still they make great products. They're very reliable. And at the end of the day, the French are our ally. So I see no problem with it.
Well, here's the other difference. So the French government could come to Parrot and they'd say, hey, we want all your information on whatever. Parrot could tell them to go fly. No, you're not getting it. Just like you could with the United States company. Apple has done that with the U.S. government already. Tell them, no, we're not giving you that. Doesn't work that way in China. If the Chinese government asked DJI for whatever, they ultimately would have to give it up. And that's kind of the difference.
Yeah.
Another thought, too, we talked about the resurgence of the Anafi. A lot of it seemed to happen around the time that the Anafi announced the thermal.
Yes. No, and that's actually
a little interest in them.
That's my interest in it. I think it's pretty insane how they were able to keep that same camera in there, and they didn't have to make it like a lower resolution camera or something like that. So you still got the same color camera, and then you've got the thermal camera in there. And honestly, the reason that I've got the Anafi and I'm using it was because I wanted to test it out before I made the leap for the thermal one. And now that I like the drone so much, I really am thinking about getting a thermal one, because that's a service I offered when I had the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual. And just to test it out, I've used it on a couple of jobs, and now I'm without a thermal drone. So I would love to be able to get the Anafi thermal because it's less expensive. And also, I love Parrot software. It's awesome. I mean, the app, that's something that to me is huge, because you want to make sure the thing you're looking at is good, and the Parrot app is great.
I was got that 180 camera, right? Because then I can imagine commercially that would really be handy. You're up in a building, you can look up and you can look down. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's get into the app a little bit. I know you've used DJI products so much. What do you think? How do you think the user interface is? How friendly is it? Do you think it is on the Parrot, on the Anafi side?
Well, here's something that I like, right? We talked about the controller already. It's nice how you can hold the controller and everything you need to really tap on the screen is right at the bottom. So you just reach up with your thumbs, tap around, change the white balance, change the shutter speed, hit record, hit stop recording. It's easy. Whereas maybe with the DJI Go app, you're going to have to take your hand off the controller and then use your finger to press things around. Now, DJI does put more buttons on their controller, so you don't have to touch the screen as much. But the controller for the Anafi is really simple. All you have to do is pretty much use it to fly. And then if you want to change anything about the drone, you just use your thumbs and touch the screen. It's easy.
I totally agree, Billy. I think it takes me less taps on the Parrot Anafi software to get things done than it does on the DJI Go 4 app in many cases. Not all cases, but many cases.
What was that again? Sorry, I'm got somebody calling me.
I said I think I agree. I think it takes less taps to get a lot of things done on the Anafi app than it does the DJI Go 4 app.
Yeah, I agree. And also the settings are easier to comb through, right? I mean, DJI has settings on settings on settings, and some of them, because they're a Chinese company, are spelled wrong. Have you guys seen like some misspellings in the app?
Yeah.
And some improper grammar.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, no, you haven't seen anything yet, Billy. Wait till you try a Hubsan Zeno or a Femi X8 if you want to see misspellings.
Really? Oh my! I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus, let's take a little bit, give Billy a little break here. Marcus, I know you've been looking at the chat room there. You want to acknowledge some of the people in chat with us tonight and maybe pick out a question or two they may have for any of us, especially Billy?
Yeah, so let's see. I'm going to have to get here up at the top here. I've got my monitor up high here, so it's a little difficult to see. But we've got, hey, Curtis Darda's in the room here, and Senator Perry, John Coopy, of course, RD's Drone and Reviews, and, of course, the great Bill Thomas at Coast to Coast Drones. QC guys here. Chris, welcome, Chris. And I saw Gorilla Man in here earlier. And yeah, let's see if we can find a good question. You kind of got me on the spot a little bit, Ron. I wasn't.
Well, real quick, let's talk about that Parrot Disco. I've seen somebody fly it before, and that thing is pretty awesome. Have you guys ever flown fixed wing?
I never have, but I mean, I know that Disco. I follow a couple people on YouTube that had the Disco, which now, of course, is discontinued. He has one now, and the Disco is. I was so interested in the darn thing, and then the price, like then by the time I got interested, it was like discontinued, and then the price went up because you couldn't get them anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
well, no, that's what Curtis says. He said, "Too bad that they dropped it." But I know that there's those modifications out there where you can add different batteries, you make it fly longer. You can add an LTE mod, so you can make it fly basically with unlimited range.
We've probably all seen some of Dustin Dunnell's videos where he flew small islands off the coast.
Now,
waypoint flights.
Parrot or Steve Edwards just asked, "What is the range of the Parrot Anafi?" I think what is it? Is it 2.4?
Over 2 miles.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten it out that far. I can say that I've gotten it out probably 3,000 or 4,000 feet, and that's when I begin to lose signal with it. So I'll bring it back around. I mean,
we've got a guy in the chat room right now that it flew it as far as I've ever seen. QC guy, Chris, can you type in how far you had it out there? I think he had it out almost 2 miles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was 2.2 miles, but we'll see what he says. He flew it over a reservoir, so he flew over completely non-Wi-Fi.
Gotcha. Well, I see right here that it says on their website that you can fly it 2.5 miles away. Now it's funny because the Mavic Air advertises 2.4, so it's 0.1 miles further. It can go 0.1 miles further.
Yeah.
You think they did that on purpose?
Yeah. Yeah, can you imagine like they were like checking each other's slates? So okay, but we're gonna put we got to top them by whatever they put in. We got to top.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing is that I like to get comfortable with the drone before I do anything crazy. I honestly, I really haven't even shot all that much video with it. I've probably got about 25 flights on it, and it's just all me going outside and just changing my controls, really just flying it back and forth as fast as I can, trying to just really get comfortable with it. And I'm at the point where I'm feeling comfortable with it now, and I definitely want to try to take it out a little bit further. Especially, I went down to Ocean City, Maryland, and touching on that Mavic Air video I just uploaded, I got my drone out over the water about 10,000 feet, and I definitely could have gone further. So I'd love to not go back to that same spot, but be in the same situation where I can go over water and see how far it'll fly, because I'm sure you can get some pretty good range out of it.
Yeah,
10,000 feet, man, that's ways.
Yeah, 10,000 feet, and as soon as I got out there, I had like 65% battery left. So you would have had to spin right around, come back home. So,
right.
Well, when the QC guy, when he got his back, and he hasn't put in the chat how far he flew it, but he got the Anafi back with 4% battery.
Oh, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I got my Inspire 2 back the other day with 2%. I landed on 2%. It was so scary. I started coming back. I was about probably 3,000 feet away with 10%. I'm like, all right, you know, it's starting to auto land. So I'm pushing up on the throttle on the altitude just so it'll make it back to me. And by the time I land, I mean, it dropped like 2%, 3% in the matter of 10 seconds. It was scary.
I was flying Anafi on the beach, one of my first couple of flights, and I was like doing follow me and stuff like that. And I was watching it. It landed on 0 on the beach, but I mean, it was right. It was right by me, though. I mean, I wasn't over the water. It was landing right by me, but it landed on 0 because I was even trying to, like, you know, run over and almost grab it. But but again, it was right near me. You know, it wasn't a big deal. Marcus has a video, and we'll put it, you know, link it in here, where he flew the Anafi and used to follow me. He walked under a pavilion, a rather large pavilion, walked out the other side. It lost him for a second, but it recaptured him again on the other side. I've never seen the follow me work as well as the video Marcus put up. Just a couple days ago?
I got to thinking about that. Do you think that because I have the controller in my hand, I wonder if it is smart enough to look for the controller?
That would be a good observation. I know that some of the DJI drones, actually the newer ones, don't have this anymore, but you're able to follow the remote controller. And I've always thought about it, like starting like 5 miles away from my house, putting it up like 400 feet, maybe being in the passenger seat and just have somebody drive back to my house and try to see it follow, like catch up with me. I've always thought about it. I mean, it basically will never lose you. It's just going to continue to follow you until it catches up.
Until it catches up. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
I know. I always thought about that because I made a video about the intelligent flight modes, and I talked about what is it called? Follow me with the remote controller. And I thought to myself, I'm like, why would you want this? Like, if I've got active track, why is this necessary? But it actually came in handy a couple of times. I mean, when you're on a boat and you don't maybe want to trust the active track, it'll always follow you.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's the other thing that I know. A lot of people they mess up. They'll have their drone. They'll be flying over water or in a situation like that, or they're on their mountain bike. They're going someplace. They have the RTH set to where they took off from, instead of the controller, and they're a mile from where they took off, and all of a sudden, low battery, the drone's heading back to where they started. So,
yeah, at that point, you're pretty much, as they say, shit out of luck.
LOL.
Well, the cool thing about some of these drones that are coming out now, the Mavic 2 doesn't have it for some reason. I know that the Mavic Pro, maybe the Mavic Air, and the Spark have it. The dynamic home point. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, where you can change it to wherever you're at. Not necessarily the controller. Am I correct? You can actually change the home point.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Now, Billy, did you say the Mavic 2 doesn't have it?
Yeah, it doesn't have it.
I have Mavic 2, but I've never looked yet. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised because I'm pretty sure that the first drone to have it was the Mavic Pro. So you'd assume it would be in the Mavic 2 Pro, but it's not there. Because I remember flying it off of a boat, and luckily it was when I was going slower. We were in a no-wake zone, and we were coming into port or coming into wherever we were going into. And I was looking for a dynamic home point, and it wasn't popping up. So basically what I was doing is I'd kind of remind myself every 5 minutes, just bring the drone close, set the home point manually to where the drone was. I know you can do it to your remote controller and set where that is, but for some reason I had a weak GPS signal. So I brought the drone to me, set the home point, and then I'd fly out just in case.
Smart. Now, have you tried to either hand launch or hand catch the Anafi yet with a built-in feature to do it in the software?
Yeah, so I haven't hand launched it, but I've hand landed it, and it works really well. It just comes right in. And you know what's funny? When it lands, it comes down, and it just goes. It like kind of sits there for a second, and it sits like maybe 4 or 5 inches off the ground, and then the motor's just cut and it drops. I think it's so funny.
Well, I asked you that because Marcus has had issues with the hand landing.
Yeah, really? Bring that up. No. Yeah, so the hand launch is it's the coolest thing ever. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the app, it's doing a countdown. Well, it goes to count up 1, 2, 3, and on 3, you just throw it, and it takes off. I mean, it rocks. But I've struggled with the hand landing. So the first time I did it, I was doing it wrong. I was doing it with the drone facing me. You're supposed to have it with the drone facing the other way.
Yeah.
so that you can cover those up. So I tried that, and I failed a couple times. The motors never shut off. I don't know why. I had it in my hand. One time I was able to grab the body of the battery here and then just turn it sideways, but I have yet to successfully do it. In fact, I decided I'm just not going to do it again because
yeah, better be safe than sorry. But you know, it's funny. It's like you shouldn't even be scared of the Anafi. It's so quiet. It's just like the wing or the propellers are like this big. You just see it sitting there like, oh, it's cute.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I just recently had to clean the blood off my controller.
Oh man, of the Anafi or of
the Anafi? The Anafi.
Oh man,
I grabbed it anyway.
Yeah.
I hated to admit to that in public, but yeah, that's a fact.
It's happened to me probably 3 or 4 times. I remember one time, grabbing the Mavic Pro, and I was like flying it inside. And this is like when I first got the Mavic Pro. So I go up and I grab it, and I wasn't expecting the propellers to be so low. And I grabbed it, and it started hitting my knuckle like a bunch of times. And it was to the point where I was inside, and I didn't want to let it go because it would have shot straight up. So I was with my roommate at the time when I was in college, and I threw the remote to him. I'm like, dude, just push down on it. Push down. You've got to push down. Stop these propellers. And he's sitting there looking at the remote like he's never flown one before. So.
Well, so that, to your point, that's what I was doing with the Anafi. I was holding the stick full down, and the motors weren't shutting off. And I had the same issue one time on the landing pad. And I've actually got it on a video. The thing came down and got on the pad, and it's hopping around on the pad. I'm holding the stick all the way down, and it didn't shut off. I finally, well, I mean, there were a lot of things I should have done, but I was kind of flustered. What I did is I walked over and I hit the button and just shut the drone off. But if I'd have been thinking, what I would have done was take off again, and then
could have done that. Yeah. I wonder if it's something with the vision positioning sensors underneath, because sometimes it thinks rather than landing, it thinks you're too close to something and then tries to just go up as fast as it can.
I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
I noticed that happens too with like the Mavic 2. So basically, if you don't try to catch it, and if you just bring your hand underneath of it and you slowly move towards it, the drone will fly up by itself and will continue to try to move away from your hand. So you really got to be swift by like bringing it down, and then as you're bringing it down, simultaneously come up and grab it real quick. And I think that's what you've also got to do with the Anafi, just because you have to trick the sensors basically.
Interesting. Or you fly a drone like the Zino. Hell, it doesn't have any sensors. You just grab it and turn it off.
With that drone, you just fly it and you crash into the ground, right? Well, and then you pick it up.
I have video of that.
So I know we wanted to talk about the Anafi, but I'd love to pick your guys' brain about the Zino. I've seen some of your guys' streams about where you talk about the Zino. I can tell you that my experience with it is pretty limited. I flew it down in Texas when I was with Kelly, Ready Set Drone, and it was funny because it was during spin up, and he basically handed it to me and Sean Oz and was like, here, figure this thing out. He had never flown it before. And it was such a pain to get in the air. I forget what was going on, but we couldn't get it to fly. And eventually after, 45 minutes to an hour, we finally got it in the air. We burnt almost the whole entire battery with the drone turned on. So, and from what I saw, it wasn't a horrible drone.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they released it with the software not fully baked. So
that makes sense.
It's not even the same drone that it was 6 months ago. Marcus and I and a couple other Grill Man, it's in here. We all got them, like we were first like non-reviewers to get them at the end of November. And again, it wasn't fully baked. It really wasn't ready for the public yet. So
yeah, Chris, the QC guys in the chat, he actually did some development work on it. Worked with Hubson doing some development.
Cool.
Work. Yeah, but so here's the remote. It's essentially a toy grade remote. It works and it does the job, but these sticks are tough. Now the drone itself, I always tell people, that people buy these and they think they're getting a Mavic. I say, look at the bottom. Do you see any sensors?
Well,
do you see anything on there?
Well, it looks like a Mavic. I mean, even with the legs that fold back behind, and like you've got the little like feet that stick up. I mean, it looks, especially the remote controller, it looks just like a Mavic.
Well, no doubt that's intentional. Now, I've grown to love this little drone, and not because it's great in almost any way. It's just really fun to fly, and you can buy it for $250.
That's a good price.
They have it's got the best gimbal cover that I've ever seen. It's so much easy to shove that on. The 3-axis gimbal works really well. When it first came out, the camera was so-so. They have refined the camera, and Ron will second me on this. Like Ron says, if you're in full sunlight, it's not so good in low light. But if you're full on in the day, man, it's really good, and it's 4K 30 frames per second.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Billy, don't fly into the shadows, but if you fly with the sun over your back, over the drone's back.
Yeah.
What it looks like is it looks like the video, it comes out of a real good GoPro knockoff camera, like a Xiaomi Yi or what's the SJ, like the better GoPro knockoff cameras. It kind of looks like that quality video. I mean, and that's great compared to the most kind of toy drones have like video that looks like it's from my iPhone 1.
Yeah, and you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add that one of the downfalls of this drone is that the firmware upgrades are just torture.
Really?
And you have to upgrade the controller separate from the FPV, separate from the flight control, separate from the gimbal, and it's a process. And a lot of people that are buying a lower priced drone, quite frankly, and you can't blame them, they just don't have the skills to do all that. They end up messing it up, and then that messes up the connection on the drone. And
yeah,
so it's an issue.
That's a pain.
Definitely a hobbyist drone, Billy. It's it's more of a hobbyist than a
I know Hubsan from making toys, and I've seen some other videos of people flying Hubsans. There was never like particularly a brand that stood out to me, but the Zino was the first one that actually looked like it would be something that I'd want to fly. And flying it for probably like 2 or 3 minutes, I really was impressed with it. The thing is, like, the downfall is the camera. That's probably the #1 thing that's important to me, is the camera on the drone. Having a 3-axis gimbal, that's nice. Being able to shoot 4K 30, that's nice. But even like the X Dynamics Evolve, that shot 4K 30, and I just think it was 1080p potentially upscaled. I don't know.
This is not. This shoots in, like we said, you got to have a lot of light. I mean, for God's sakes, it's probably got a plastic lens on it for all I know. But,
yeah.
But it does pretty darn good, and it started off not so good, but they've continually sent out updates, and things that you wouldn't think you'd be able to fix with firmware. They've made it pretty darn good. The other thing, the point that I was making about it is, because it's a $250 drone, you quite frankly aren't so worried about it, and you'll
yeah.
You know?
Well, to your point, I think it's insane how they can just fix things over the air, how they can just put out a firmware update and say, hey, we improved the image quality, or we improved the range. I mean, with DJI, they came out with the Spark, and God, the connection was awful. I mean, that's why everybody's using the OTG cable, because if you hooked up to the remote wirelessly and then the remote hooked up to the drone wirelessly, I mean, there was a lag. First of all, the latency was bad. Also, when you're flying the drone, you couldn't get more than 500 feet. Now, they have since fixed that, and I don't even think you need an OTG cable anymore. Yes, you get a better connection, but I think that it works fine without it. Like, if you don't have one, it's not going to be a deal breaker. But even with the Mavic Pro, the original one, they released a firmware update where they literally improved the image quality. I just find that awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I've always felt that with these drones and many devices, just get the hardware right at the initial release. If you have the right hardware in your product, you can, improve it later on with firmware updates. But if you don't have the right hardware, then you're stuck in coming out with a version 2 right away. But Bill,
yeah.
To your point, the Mavic Pro, after about maybe 6 months to a year, the original Mavic Pro video, I don't know, got doubly good or whatever. Like, it's much better.
So the very first one that I had, there was actually a hardware issue where the whole right side was out of focus. And I think a lot of people had that issue. I mean, that's the biggest problem with that drone, was the camera. And I noticed that as people began to get maybe like a second runoff or a third runoff of the drones, after that like first initial production, the camera was better. So maybe they rushed it, maybe they tweaked something a little bit, but I noticed that after I sent my drone in, not only was the focus fixed, but also the image quality was better and the colors were better. And then once it was once it went through that update with the improved image quality, it got even better. Did you own an original Mavic Pro? Either of you guys?
And it was so hard I was so hard to get at first, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't have mine until I got that second wave you were talking about, and mine, I never had an issue with it.
And that's me too. I'm sure I got mine a couple months after it was out, and it was the second wave.
Yeah, you know, for some reason though, even those second wave, I mean, before they put out that firmware update, it produced like this orange, yellow, green video that just didn't look good. It looked very unappealing.
Right. Listen, it sounds like we kind of wrapped up on the Parrot already, and we're going to jump into the Osmo Action next. But
yeah,
let's just get some final. Like a couple part question here, like you know, I know it's early days, you haven't had that long, but you know, would you recommend the Parrot, and then who is the Parrot for?
I couldn't recommend it enough. In fact, when I made that Mavic Air video, I've got 2 drones in my backpack, and that's the backpack I bring to class. I've got 2 drones with me as I'm sitting there in math class. But I carry the Mavic 2 Pro. That's like my workhorse. I can take photos and videos with that, not only commercially, but just for myself or YouTube, and it looks great across the board. But obviously, there's some times where you either run out of battery when you're out for a long time, or maybe there's certain situations where I don't feel comfortable flying a bigger, I say bigger because the Mavic Air is smaller, a bigger drone like the Mavic 2 Pro. Like, I call the Mavic Air my stunt drone. And I try to fly that thing through tight spaces, get like cool video that you might not want to risk a more expensive drone with. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually going to, after we're done this, totally tear apart my backpack, put in different inserts so that I can carry around the Anafi instead of the Mavic Air, because I think it's a great backup drone. I think that it does things totally different than any other drone does because of that gimbal that looks upwards. Not only does it give you these different options for shooting, but commercially it gives you a bunch of different options, being able to look up underneath of something. So if you're ever posed with having to do some sort of inspection, yes, the Anafi is no Matrice, but you're able to, you know, look, well, all right, the Matrice can look upwards if you mount the gimbal upwards, but a lot of people I know use the Phantom or the Inspire or something like that. Those drones can't look straight up. The Anafi can. That's a big thing. In terms of who it's geared towards, I would say maybe beginners, but maybe more like intermediate, you know? And I think it goes all the way up to professional. Somebody like, I wouldn't call myself a professional, but somebody like myself and other people I know that are, you know, much more apt in the space and, you know, maybe have more pull. I think that they would love the Parrot Anafi too. And I really hope that this kind of gives Parrot maybe a kick in the butt, and we'll see a second one, because I think that would be awesome.
That would rock. I wanted to add to what you were just saying, professionals. So Bill, the drone reviewer, interviewed, and I cannot remember her name.
Gail.
She is a wartime photographer, and she literally goes into war zones. And one of the drones she carries with her is the Anafi because of that lookup feature.
That's cool. And it's, you know, I don't know what she's necessarily filming for wartime, but it's quiet too. That's got to be a plus.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. That would have to be. Yeah.
Well, let's do it before we move on. And also, if you're a traveler, if you like to travel and travel,
oh yeah,
you like to take a light backpack with you, this is a great travel drone.
It seriously weighs next to nothing, and I'm so impressed. I can get that drone up in 20 seconds.
Hey, one of the things I caught in the chat here that I think is worth mentioning is, this is great. FSU grad, I didn't know this. He's the guy that won Kelly Shore's Zino that he gave away. FSU grad is the guy that won it.
That's awesome.
That's great stuff. Okay, let's jump into the Osmo Action. As everybody knows, the DJI's action camera they released a couple weeks, it was a month ago already, a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of competitor to the GoPro Hero 7 here. It has rock study, which is kind of the same as the hypersmooth stabilization here, which kind of mimics a mechanical gimbal. So they released a lot of fanfare, and you know, it should have been. It's a great camera. I don't know if it's better than the Hero 7, but it's definitely a competitor. Maybe it is better. Billy's done a couple of videos on it, and recently he's done a video where he kind of threw a few cons in there. So
man.
So, but no, it was a great video though.
Great video.
Yeah. Thank you. And you know what?
There's been too many fanboy and I think everything you said was wasn't just somebody nitpicking. They were most of them. I think one issue I thought maybe was slightly nitpicking, but most of them are really good issues. So
Well, at the end, I talked about the sounds it makes. It might be nitpicking, but especially for, if you're not going to be looking at the camera, if you maybe got it mounted to your head, you want to have like an audible chirp where you can hear it. And yes, the Action makes an audible chirp, and yes, you can hear it, and yes, it's loud. But for some reason, that beep from the GoPro is so predominant, you just know it's on.
Well, maybe in a firmware update, maybe they can let you customize your sound eventually.
That'd be nice. You can like customize like a ringtone. You can put a song on there.
You download ringtones or whatever. But
that's another way they could charge you.
Of how is this the overview? What do you think of the camera? How you use it? How it fits in your your business and your personal lifestyle? Does it go with you every day?
Yeah, it's in my backpack every day. I had the Osmo Pocket in my backpack every day. It's since replaced that. I think at this point in time, if you had to choose between the Osmo Pocket and the Osmo Action, go with the Action 7 days a week. In my opinion, the Pocket, it's cumbersome. You take it out, you've got to take it out of that little case, then you've got to turn it on, wait for the gimbal to, whatever. And anytime I have a gimbal, no matter how small, no matter how big, no matter how robust, I just feel like I've got to be gentle with it. Like I feel like, I don't want to bump this into anything. I don't want to put it in a scenario where it might get broken. Now it's got some pros over the Action, obviously, and the Action has some pros over the Pocket. So if you look at both of them, you figure out which one you like better, then you can choose. They're the same price. And we're still waiting on the waterproof housing for the Pocket. That never came.
Yeah, you wonder if it ever will. So my solution is you got to own both. I mean,
yeah,
no, I'm serious, for different.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
I agree. So here's the thing: the real, and I don't know if you guys know who Sean Oz is or if you follow his videos. He does some drone stuff, but he's also really big in action cameras, and he does a lot of snowboarding. And he's made some really good points that the Action cam or the Osmo Action is like a great point and shoot vlogging camera, but the GoPro is better for action stuff. And one of the reasons he said is because it has super view where you can get even wider. And he did a comparison where he held it out, and he actually had them both side by side. And as he's snowboarding, the Hero 7 will get his whole entire body in the frame, his snowboard, the top of his head, and it leaves some room around him. But with the Action, it's cropped in. As crazy as that sounds, as wide as it is, it still won't fit his entire body in there.
You think that can be fixed with a firmware update, or is that a lens issue? Or
I don't know. It could be limited to the hardware. They could implement some sort of wider field of view with it. I think that with all of DJI's products, they're going to have that one first update that's huge and introduces a ton of new features. I don't know why they do that, but I feel like every single time they release something that works, I wouldn't say it's necessarily half-baked. It works, but then they implement some sort of firmware update that makes it better, improves a lot of the little things that may have gone wrong, but also it just adds a ton of really great features. I've been using the Pocket just for like personal stuff, just, recording dumb little things here and there. And once that gets external mic support, I will use it as a vlogging camera. It's so easy. It's easy to put inside of your bag. I don't have to worry about damaging a larger camera. I mean, something like the Sony a7 III is heavy. Carrying this thing around, not being able to see what's in front of you. It's got great autofocus. It's obviously like a DSLR, so you get great quality. But also you've got to weigh the pros and the cons, or I guess it weighs the strengths and the weaknesses, because yes, this is better image quality, but I think that the GoPro or the Osmo Action does a good enough job at shooting a good image, and you also get the crazy extreme portability of it.
Right. I mean, using your Sony there, that's more of I'm kind of an amateur photographer all my life. That's what I call, you would use that for considered photography. Like if you had a shoot planned out in your head, you knew exactly what you were looking for, you get that out, you put in your gimbal, and you get the shot. But this is for when you're out and you don't have a plan in your head. The plan just happens or whatever in front of you. This is spontaneous photography, and that's Sony's considered photography.
That's the I use the M50 a lot, is because I can put this microphone on.
Exactly.
90% of the reason.
I tried the Osmo Action audio, and it's just really like tinny. It's hard to like really make it sound exactly how you want it to. So what's funny, do you guys know what small rig cages are?
No.
So it's like a cage that you put around like the body of your camera, and it gives you all these different mounting points all the way around. So rather than having just like a hot shoe mic, you've got all these different mounting points. You can put like a grip on the side. You can do all this crazy stuff. So Small Rig is actually making a cage for the Osmo Action. So you can fit the Osmo Action inside, and you get all these mounting points around the outside. So from there, I would be able to mount a tripod on the bottom, mount a microphone on the top, and maybe if I'm shooting for a long period of time or something like that, even if I'm shooting a time lapse and I don't need a microphone on the top, I could put some sort of battery on the side and just double the battery life if I wanted to. And even, I don't know if I'd do this, but you could put lights on there. So I pre-ordered that. It should be coming. I think they said like July. So I can't wait to use that because it'll be sweet.
Cool. You just made me think of something, Billy. So do you, and when you, because I've considered this, when you're making your videos, do you ever just use an external audio recorder just so that you can get good audio?
When I shoot my videos like sitting inside, I've got a USB mic. It's like a Samsung G-Track Pro. So I am recording something externally that gets saved right to my computer. And then I'm recording audio on my my camera, and then I synchronize it in post in my editing software. And what's nice is with Final Cut Pro, and I know that Premiere Pro can do this also, is you click on the two clips, you hit synchronize, and then they just pretty much snap together automatically and you don't have to do anything. So if you've got an editing software, it'd be easy to do. But I just feel like I want the Osmo Action because it's more portable, and I don't want to be dealing with an external audio source I've got to like mic up or something. I just want to put a shotgun mic right on top of it and go.
That's where I've always been too, is I keep thinking about it just to get the good audio quality. And then, but to your point, it's funny that you brought that up because Ron and I had that conversation earlier today. I was explaining to him, I use Magic's Movie Edit Pro, and it has that function where you can synchronize the audio, and that is just phenomenal. Makes it so easier.
I would spend 20 minutes like lining up the audio, and now it's just boom, one click.
Yeah.
That's a great time saver. Before we get too far away from the Osmo Action, does the combination of the Osmo Pocket and Action make the Osmo Mobile 2 relevant in your book? Or
so the Osmo Mobile is cheap. That's like $130. Maybe somebody already has a phone. I know a lot of people, even when they're debating between like the regular Osmo, even though the regular Osmo is so overdue for an update. I mean, that camera it's like the Zenmuse X3 or whatever. I mean, that is so overdue for an update. But people would be saying, oh, well, if I've got the Osmo Mobile here and I've got the regular Osmo and I've already got a 4K camera, why not save some money and just use my phone? And I agree with that. I mean, if you're looking to save money, the Osmo Mobile 2 is there at, I think it's $140. And then you're going to have to spend $200 extra to get like the Osmo Pocket. But then you're sitting there and it's like, is the $200 worth it to get a smaller camera that pretty much has the same quality as a phone does that you can fit in your pocket rather than a huge gimbal, you know?
Billy, I had the Zion Smooth 4, which is, equivalent a gimbal to the Osmo Mobile 2. I have. Are you aware of Filmic Pro? It's like
yes,
and yeah. So it just like the Osmo Mobile 2, it works with Filmic Pro, but the buttons on the Smooth 4, you could control the whole app, never touching the app. The buttons are better mapped out, and it's a big rig. You got to get your phone on there, and you got to get on. But I still feel that I can. And I took it to Florida. I was in Florida in April for a couple of weeks, and I had all my various cameras with me, and I still could get the best video without walking along. Like I have a nice thing where I walk like to a palm tree, and it just and more cinematic looking. But again, it's considered photography. Like it's not something I could just use just randomly walking around. I have to imagine a shot in my head to go through the trouble of getting that thing out, getting Filmic Pro started, getting all the settings the way I want it. It's almost like pulling the DSLR out. It's very considered photography, but again, the results are better than using this or a Pocket or something else.
To your point, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say in the chat here, Curtis Dart is saying that he just got in Viral Light, and I'm not sure what that is, but he said that would be awesome with the Pocket.
I'm going to look it up. I've never heard of that or seen it. Oh, it's one of those like cable cams where you mount it and you can mount like the cable to spots and it goes on the cable.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh. This thing looks pretty cool. I don't know how I'd use it. So if Curtis, I would love to know how you plan to use it. And if you ever do end up using it, I'd love to see some video from that because it looks pretty cool.
He's just gonna use it like a cable cam.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty cool. It'd
definitely be something that you'd have to set up.
Yeah.
I mean, so a shot that you're not just an off the cuff, an extemporaneous shot. It's something that you're setting up, but it would be cool.
To your point of like considered photography and stuff like that, I always find that as much as you can shrink the barrier between having an idea and shooting, is you're going to be the most likely to like go and do that thing, right? So for example, when I first started shooting videos, I had everything set up so that all I had to do when I was shooting a video is walk up, set up the camera, I had my light set up, push a button, boom, I'm recording. And when you shrink that barrier down, it's so easy to go and just shoot a video. When I'm already in the swing now after 2 years of just posting videos, making videos. And this school semester, when I was at my apartment, it was so small that I had to continually break down my setup and then reset it up. And honestly, it made me not want to shoot videos anymore. And that's the thing is like when you have your Osmo Mobile 2 or a gimbal like that, sometimes you're like, I don't feel like setting it up. I'm just not going to get this shot. But if you can just pull it right out of your pocket and just boom, go, I mean, you're going to shoot a lot more footage than you would with probably an Osmo Mobile 2 or equivalent.
Right. I mean, and you know, consider photography. Told Marcus this story. I went to what's the falls in Oregon? I went to. I always forget the name.
Multnomah Falls.
Multnomah Falls. It's like the most photographed waterfalls in the U.S. or either Northern Hemisphere. It's in Oregon. It's not well. It's far from where.
It's way far from you guys.
A couple hundred miles. But I was there. I was in Oregon for like a couple weeks last summer. But I knew where I was going. I've been reading about Multnomah Fall for years. So like I had notes down. I knew exactly what settings I was going to put my camera. I got a special ND filter, the best ND filter for waterfalls. Like, you know, I knew where I was going to stand. You know, I even had on a cheat sheet, I had all the settings I was going to use on my camera, you know, and I had variations depending on the lighting. And I got there and I set it up. And I got the shot and it came out perfect. It's my best waterfall shot of all time on a considered shot that I've been thinking about for years.
That's awesome. That's the thing you got to do is especially planning. And this is getting way too into my workflow, but I script like every one of my videos. Like if you plan, it's going to come out so much better.
That's good advice for anybody who's in here who, you know, says, how do you, you know, people always say, how do you make such great videos, Billy? That planning, you know,
it's all about planning. I mean, I'll sit there and it's also easier to shoot, right? When you script a video, you're not sitting there mumbling to the camera. You know exactly what you're going to say.
Right.
The flip side of that coin. So one of the things that I try and do on my channel, the other day I did a waypoint mission with this thing, and what I wanted to show was just somebody picking it up and trying to figure it out. So I sometimes try and do that live on screen, so I look like, you know, well, I mean, it's the truth. You're just somebody that's picking it up trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I fail, and sometimes that video gets thrown away. But I also, most of the time, even when I screw up and I make mistakes, I show it on the videos because I don't know. I just kind of think it shows people, okay, if you pick this up, this is what you're going to see.
Oh, and I totally agree. I try to show like real life things sometimes. Like when my Mavic 2 Pro went down, I wanted to make a video about that. I've got a video coming up about my Inspire 2. I broke it. Short story. There's like these feet, these landing gear on it, and the back two have like snapped off. Now they're still there, but it's broken. And when I land, they flex. And I've got to get it fixed. I'm trying to figure out how I want to get it fixed because I don't want to put in a box and ship it to DJI. I mean, that would just be such a pain. So, you know, I've got this drone repair service that's up in northern New Jersey that I'm going to try to link up with. And I mean, look, I'd rather hand deliver it to them than ship it because that would just be obnoxious. But you know, what that came from is leaning it on its back legs to put the camera on. And I had so many people tell me, don't do that. And I kept doing it. And I'm like, oh, it's not going to break. They broke. They broke at the same time. So
yeah.
Billy, let's jump again here. Let's talk about the DJI Smart Controller for a minute.
You know, I don't have it actually, and I think that I'm just like spending my money on other things, and I feel like I'm all right with just my regular remote controller.
Okay.
Another big thing for me is I use, even though it doesn't have that mechanical shutter, I still use the Mavic 2 Pro for quick mapping missions,
Right.
and you can't run those secondary applications on the smart controller, which is a huge pain.
Right. I mean, your buddy Ken was one of the people that convinced me to get it.
He loves it.
Yeah, and Bill, the drone reviewer, and of course, I just bought the Mavic 2 Pro recently. So you know what I did? I bought the bundle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it essentially only cost me $400.
So, you know, I don't even know if this is going to come up on the screen, but in my backpack is filled to the brim right now. And I usually have like a couple of other things in here. But if you zip it over from the side, in here, my Mavic 2 Pro remote controller fits so perfectly right in this slot. And the Mavic Pro goes here. I've got that charging. And under here is my Mavic Air. I don't think I would physically have room for a bigger controller. Like it fits so perfectly in here. I don't know if I'd be able to fit a smart controller. I'd have to take something out.
You'll have to call the guys at Peak Design and say design a pack just to fit the smart controller.
Yeah, well, hey, Peak Design makes some great products. I had my backpack for like 2 years, and the zipper broke, and they sent me a brand new one. I got a brand new backpack for free.
Did they send you that new tripod?
No. No, they didn't. I saw a ton of videos on it. I think it's overpriced. I think it's I don't know. I'm not into travel tripods. I would rather bring a much bigger, heavier, sturdy tripod.
Right.
So just one little point here. Just looking at that backpack, Billy, you're going to do so awesome in the corporate world. You're so organized.
It's taken me the 2 years since I started doing YouTube and doing drone stuff to build that backpack. And it's nice because I have like these scenarios I'm putting where I'm like, oh, I wish I had that. Now I'm going to put that in my backpack. And I get sometimes like my mom will come down and like help me unload my car when I come home. And I'll be like, here, Mom, can you bring my backpack up? And she's like, oh my God, because it's so heavy. But yeah, I would rather be so prepared for anything. I mean, I've got a Ethernet cable in there just in case I've got to like do some heavy uploading or something like that on the road, and I can plug right in. So I've got way too much in there.
Well, I mean, I just retired recently, so all of that's behind me now. But nice. I can tell you, traveling and going to meetings and so forth, I was always stunned. You know, you'd be going to make a presentation or something, and people that were not prepared. And like I said, God, I'd always have an extra cable in my briefcase or whatever, because you know that things go wrong. Anyway, we're getting off subject here, but
yeah,
I'm amused when I saw your backpack.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've gone about an hour and 15 minutes. Is there anything else you'd want to like touch on?
Well, I do want to wrap up that Osmo Action talk we had by saying,
great.
you know, it's funny. You guys both had the GoPro, and I've got the Osmo Action, so I can't speak on the GoPro. And you know, you guys have probably seen a ton of reviews on the Osmo Action, but we both have these different, I guess, situations. And the video I made about the shortcomings, I don't think that the Osmo Action is necessarily better than the GoPro. I mean, same images, same form factor for the most part. They both shoot for the same amount of time, the same battery. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that the Osmo Action is like incredibly better than the GoPro. And with the GoPro being released, I mean, at the beginning of last summer, around I think July maybe.
More for the fall. I think it was like end of September.
Well, even so, it was so long ago that I can't wait to see what GoPro comes out their Hero 8. And I would assume that DJI would have done something that almost ups the game. I mean, I know that front LCD screen is huge for certain people, but at the end of the day, that's not going to be crazy for other people. And I think that was a very minor upgrade.
So to your point, what we're used to from DJI is when they come out with a new product, it blows you away typically. And it's things that you never even thought of until you see it in their product and you go, wow. And that's exactly right. The Osmo Action almost seems like an also-ran. It's a great product, but like you said, it's not as innovative. Well, this guy, man, I'm telling you, that blew me away when I first saw it.
No, I agree.
I think the problem with the action camera market is it's so mature now that there's not a whole lot you can do as far as innovating. Again, it's like the smartphone market. Like if you came into the smartphone market today, what would you really do to to out innovate the iPhone or the flagship Android phones? It's not a whole lot a showstopper.
No, dark mode. I was going to say on WWDC today, dark mode.
Yeah, for the phone. Yeah.
I've been staying off of Twitter and Apple's website until I can watch that whole thing. So I don't want any spoilers. Yeah. Let me see. You know what? We were talking about this earlier. Their video replay still isn't up yet. Man, I'm gonna have to go to bed not even knowing what they released.
But yeah, I just don't think there's a whole lot, either company could do to greatly outdo the other one now. Like you said about the, I think that, that's good that they have the, the LCD screen on the front seat, but they don't have GPS. You mentioned Oz, the snowboarder. This has GPS. So on your video, you can put in how fast you're snowboarding down the side of the mountain. Yeah. And the action.
You know what? I love that form factor. And I'm always a proponent of having something better that's a little bit bigger, right? So I'd rather lug around the Phantom with me because it's better in certain ways than the Mavic. And that was before the Mavic 2 Pro came out. So now with the 1-inch sensor, it's a no-brainer to just go with the Mavic 2 Pro. But it's like I would rather have a bigger phone with a bigger battery. Like make it a little bit thicker and increase that battery life. So in my opinion, GoPro could come out and make a camera that's just a little bit bigger than the Hero and make the camera even better. They can put a bigger sensor in there. They can potentially put a bigger battery in there. And I wouldn't mind if maybe it was just a little bit bigger and even better.
Yeah.
So let me pile on to that. And if one of those companies can come out with a good directional microphone, well, I guess on an action camera it'd have to be omnidirectional, but maybe something you could choose. But a decent microphone would be awesome.
And Billy, putting a 1-inch sensor in this kill the battery life?
I wonder because just like what I was saying, maybe you can put in a bigger battery with more room in there. But then you're talking about how are they going to dissipate the heat? So I don't know what they would do. I think that a lot of people are probably happy with the size of the sensor now because it does shoot great video. I mean, you really can't ask for anything more from a smaller camera than that. But you're right. I mean, sitting here thinking about it, like what else can they do to really innovate the action camera? Right. Like they've gotten so far.
I remember this action camera is not meant for particularly, somebody like you, Billy. This is meant for, just the everyday, shooter. And he doesn't want a large file that's going to come from that 1-inch sensor. He wants a file that's going to run on his 5-year-old laptop. He doesn't want this and then have to go out and buy a brand new computer to be able to edit the the film he gets from it, the video.
Hey, I got it, guys. I think I've got it. What if you could make this camera fly?
Oh, GoPro karma. Well, here's what I'm thinking about it is like, they've got their differences. They have like the black and the white version, right? And I don't know necessarily. I think what it's like different processors and different frame rates between what they can shoot. I don't know what the difference is, but I'd love to see like actual big differences. Like, they come out with the iPhones and they have the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 10 or the iPhone 10s, the iPhone 10s Max. I mean, something that's actually bigger, something that gives you more screen real estate. And if they did that with the Oz or with the GoPro, right? Maybe they came out with the GoPro Hero 8 and the GoPro Hero 8 Plus, and it was a bigger camera with a bigger sensor and a bigger battery. I mean, that gives people the option to choose.
Right. That would be something. And these action cameras, they're kind of like, I don't know, like smartphones now. Most people don't buy one every generation. Only a few people are like, you get something like this. You could probably go like, I may not get the 8, I'll wait and get the 9, or maybe maybe I'll get the Osmo Action 2 instead when it comes out. Like you don't need to buy it every year because the innovations are usually small. Now this was a showstopper because of Hypersmooth, but you had the 5, the 6 came out. The 6 wasn't really enough to go out and get it. It wasn't that much better than your 5. It was slightly better in a lot of categories.
Yeah, and when they released the Hero 6, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, is that all? Like, is that all? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Again, but it's hard. It's hard. That's why as a buyer, you don't buy. Unless you're somebody that just loves GoPro, you don't buy everyone. You wait a couple years in between until they get a real innovation like the Hypersmooth.
Yeah. That discussion Ron and I had was that's what pushed us into buying it was the Hypersmooth you know, that we otherwise probably wouldn't have bought it.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this is 2019. Nobody wants to watch shaky video anymore. Nobody, right, Billy? Nobody wants to see shaky, even GoPro. Nobody wants to see shaky video. Everybody wants to see stable video. It's 2019. Get rid of shaky video.
Boom.
So now with you guys both having Hero 7, will you get the Osmo Action?
I won't. No, there's no point. Well, I mean, I'm kind of a gadget guy, so I like buying stuff, but even that it just isn't, it isn't adding enough to make it worth buying.
Yeah, I don't need 2 action cameras.
We need another.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that they're so similar that I wouldn't consider it an upgrade over the GoPro Hero 7. I mean, again, in my situation, I don't really use like action cameras all that much, but I had the Hero 5, and I think that that's a substantial upgrade to go to the Hero 7. And I think after using the Hero 5 menu system and then using the Osmo Action menu system, the Actions feels a little bit smoother. It's easier to use. It doesn't take up as much space on the screen. So that's something that's nice. I don't feel like I have to pull out my phone and like connect to the Mimo app. And that's something you have to do with the Pocket. I mean, if you want to use it, you've got to plug it into a phone. There's really no way around it. So it's nice being able to just change things on the fly right on the screen.
Good point.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm if I didn't have the Action, if I would have never bought this, I'd have the Action already.
Exactly. It's like right now it's honestly one or the other, and one is not better than the other in my opinion. They both do things differently.
Right, and they both get the job done. It's like if you went out and bought the newest iPhone, or you bought a flagship Android phone, you're still getting a good phone, or the Pixel. If you buy a flagship phone, no matter which operating system, you're getting a great phone. Yeah,
I mean, you could buy a Note 8 right now and it'd be fine.
Right. With this, you buy the the Action, you're still getting a great camera.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, so you brought that up, Ron. So Billy, is the Pixel 3 your main phone now?
No, I've heard of horror stories, and I almost experienced one myself, switching the SIM card of my iPhone into the Google Pixel because of iMessage. So I've got a separate SIM inside of my Google Pixel. It's like my secondary SIM card. I do a lot of my communication, like my texting and my calling on my iPhone, but the Google Pixel I use primarily for shooting photos. I use it for Twitter. I use it for Instagram. I use it for Facebook, like just keeping up with things like that. Another thing I actually like about the iPhone too is it takes better video. So while that takes better photos, I think this takes better video. And it's nice being able to compare both Android and iPhone or iOS. And something I actually do a lot is I love to listen to music while I fly. I don't know if people will like give me flack for that because it might be like a distraction. But if you try to play music through the phone you're flying with, you can't, because it'll just like every time you go to shoot a video or a photo, it'll stop, it'll pause the music.
Yeah.
So I'll use one to listen to music and one to fly.
Never thought of that. Yeah, you're right. I think like I'm walking along the beach, I could take a picture with my music on and it's fine. But as soon as I turn the video on, they're good music. Yeah. With my iPhone. Yeah. Huh. Mark, you see anything good in the chat room?
Well, I just was looking. Curtis Dart is asking Billy to look at his Viral interview. He said he posted it above.
I don't see a link.
Yeah, I was looking too. And QC guy says the GoPro never grabbed me, and he loves his Pocket. He got the Action today, so that's interesting. So he's a technical guy and is pretty versed in the DJI Action grabbed him and the GoPro didn't.
Well, here's something interesting too that you've got to consider is the GoPro. I get them mixed up all the time. Sometimes I watch back my video that I make on them, and I call the Osmo Action the GoPro, and I'll have to go back and like reshoot a certain portion of it. But if you look at it, the GoPro Hero 7 is now less expensive than the Action. It's $299, so that could be a reason to buy the Hero or the GoPro over the Osmo.
True.
I think that deal was only for like I think that deal's gone already. The $299.
Really?
I think it was like it was for maybe a Memorial Day weekend. Somebody had it that price. I'm not sure. So anybody in the chat room could post a link or whatever. But I think that was just temporary. But I expect the Hero 7 to be at least $349 or lower. In the near future.
Yeah, no, you're right. The Hero 7 is on Amazon right now. I'm looking. It's $399.99. So this is.
And it was a big box retailer had it on sale. I forget which one. Maybe we'll say Walmart. I'm making that up. It may not. Some big box retailer had it for $299 for Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, I see a bundle here. It's the GoPro Hero 7, and it comes with 2 extra batteries and a 64 gig SD card for $418. So for 2 extra batteries and an SD card, you're paying $18. That's a good deal.
Yeah, that's a deal. Yeah.
I mean, and you know what's nice about the Osmo Action is the batteries are only like $19. They're really inexpensive.
Oh, that is good. Yeah.
And I feel like these companies sometimes they're in like pissing matches. Like they try to like one up, right? So the Osmo Action comes with you can get a triple charger rather than the dual charger that you get with the GoPro. Yeah. So it's like, oh, you can charge one more battery, just like Parrot putting the 0.1 extra miles on their range, 2.5 to 2.4.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
hey, Ron, so we're coming up on about an hour and a half here. So I mean, I don't know how far we're going to.
Yeah, I mean, Billy, you know, when you got to go, I mean, you just say, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, man. Look, I feel like I've exhausted everything I got to say. If there's anything else you want to talk about, any questions at all, I got time, and I'm on summertime now, so I've got time.
Okay, great. Well, before we wrap up, I mean, even if we got some more questions, if you want to plug anything, I mean, I've linked your YouTube channel in this video, but if you want to plug your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram.
Well, you know, I've actually been using Facebook a lot more. So if you want to look it up, just Billy Kyle. I'm trying to get some more likes over on that page. I find, you know what I've been using recently? Buffer. And when you use Buffer, you're able to post to Twitter and Facebook simultaneously. So I just had to like write it out once, send it to both. That's pretty nice. But I've been posting to Facebook a lot more frequently. And I feel like, you know, Facebook was never really my thing, but it's grown on me now. I don't know about you guys, but I hate their applications. They all suck, from their page manager to regular Facebook to Messenger. There's just too much going on.
Yeah. As an old guy, as an old man, they confuse the hell out of me.
They confuse me. And this is like all I'm surrounded by is technology. And I'm sitting here saying, why do I have 3 apps to do one thing?
Hey, Billy, outside of YouTube, which is the obvious answer, what social platform do you get the most engagement on? Again, besides YouTube?
I'd say probably Instagram. I try to plug my Instagram a lot through YouTube, so I've got, you know, people follow me over there. And whenever I do something about like photos or something like that, I'll say like, oh, I post this photo on Instagram. So I find that Instagram's big. You know, you guys know how Instagram now has stories. I've found that a lot of interaction comes through those stories. So I did a video on the Para Zero Safe Air, which is that parachute that comes out of the Phantom as it's falling, which was cool. And when I made that video, I posted about it on my Instagram and I tagged Parazero in it. And with I've got like 3,000 followers, 400 people clicked on that sticker, which is crazy, right? I mean, so I feel like there's a lot of things that could be done through Instagram, and I got to take advantage of that more.
Now, have you done much with the Instagram? What is it, IGTV?
No, and you know what? I get pretty upset every single time I try to go to my direct messages and I accidentally hit IGTV there in the top right corner. I think that they dropped the ball on that. I don't know. It was so cool at first, and I posted a couple of videos on there, but I haven't used it much.
When I went to Florida, I purposely took a lot of a
vertical video
to put on there, and I never got around to doing it.
Yeah, well, you know, and I found that like people just aren't going and like watching IGTV. So it's almost like you're making this content and you go to post it and you're not going to get anybody watch it. That's like trying to post content on MySpace or something like that. Like nobody's going to see it.
I was going to say on what's Google's failed social media?
Hangout or Google Plus? Was it Google Plus?
Google Plus. It's like putting all your posts on Google Plus. It was like nobody.
Yeah. You know, to this day, I don't know a single person that's ever used that. Like honestly, when I would make a YouTube channel, it would really upset me that I had to also create a Google Plus profile or whatever it was called.
I mean, Google, back in the day when it first started, it was a nice place, especially for photographers to hang out, and Google Photos was born out of Plus. So even though Plus was on, a lot of Hangouts, a lot of good things came out of Plus. Google Photos, Google Hangouts. So it did have its positives.
Yeah, I guess so.
In the chat room, Chris, the QC guy, is posting. He's asking you to plug his Zino waterfall video, which it is worth plugging. If anybody that hasn't seen it, go to QC guy's channel, and he flies the Zino. He's flying it up a waterfall, and I do not know how that thing didn't just get swept away. He literally had to be inches from the waterfall on that thing. So it's very entertaining.
Is that the most recent one?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Waterfall. It's got a picture of a waterfall on the page. So,
but Billy, what the Zino really needs is they haven't released ND filters for it, neither Hubsan or anybody third party. So they've got to get the ND filters out for that thing. And I keep bugging Hubsan about it. Unfortunately, some of the people that Shally Liu, who was an executive with Hubsan, she would almost like contact me every week asking me, you know, did I have issues with the Zino, and could I try this new firmware up? But unfortunately, she's left the company now, and I don't have anybody really like, you know, like, but I always used to bug her. We got to get these ND filters out.
Yeah.
Got to work ND filters.
I'm looking at his waterfall drone, and Marcus, I can see what you mean by these drones being disposable almost. You don't care what happens to them because they're only $249 or however much they're priced at.
Yeah, I'm posting the link right now.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. That's a great spot to fly.
Well, so here, let me add to that. So another guy that flies the Zino, guy in Ireland, Hugh Pollock, he gave me the throwdown. He said, we have to one-up Chris's video with our Zinos. We got to do something really dangerous. So, you know, we'll see what comes of that.
I'll be waiting for it. I'll be looking out for it. That's some cool shots though, right over that waterfall. And I am surprised at the video that it takes. I think it is good, and the colors are nice. And I can tell that in this video, like, it's like a hazy day, you know, like there's not much sunlight, and it still performs pretty well.
Marcus, I don't know if I ever told you, Billy's from Westchester, that's Chester County, Pennsylvania. I'm from Oxford, which is about 30 miles south of him, so we grew up not that far. Of course, I'm old enough to be Billy's grandfather, so it wasn't in the era. But the location's like, what's that location you shoot at a lot? It's like an old, like, prison or, like, reform school.
So it's called Embryville State Hospital.
Right,
I think that's what it's called. And it's nothing crazy. Like, it wasn't like, you know, psycho crazy people live there. It was actually for people who had anger management. So kids from 10 years old all the way up to people who were 70, 80 years old were there getting treatment for anger management. And there's a couple of different buildings on that premise. So there's actually an old police state barracks. There's that psychiatric center. That's what I think they call it. So basically for people who have anger management issues. And then there's also like a school. It's like for, I think it was an elementary school. So right down there, a little bit further down the hill, there's also like this small little factory, and they have this big smokestack. So there's a ton of stuff to fly there. I mean, no matter where you go, you've got something different to fly. And that's probably about 15, 20 minutes away from my house. It's all these back roads. So it's really easy to get to. Yeah. And it's just such a really good place to fly. It's funny. There's actually an active PennDOT building right there. And, you know, if you want to fly that smokestack, you can either drive right underneath of it, or you can walk up on top of the roof of like some of those abandoned buildings and fly down. But just to, you know, save some time, sometimes I'll drive up, I'll sit there and I'll fly almost like right from the base. And some of these workers came out of the PennDOT facility and like, oh, here I am, I'm going to get in trouble. But the one guy was like, hey, do you think that you can check and see if the door's locked behind there? So they're pretty cool.
Here's when I was your age, Billy, that place was still open.
I bet. Well, you know, when
I was your age, it was still open.
Well, here's the thing. It only closed in like 2013, yet it's in ruins. Yeah. And you know what? That's the thing is like when it gets popular and when kids find out that it's abandoned, they're going to go there and they're just going to destroy it. They're going to rip things down, and then that will further progress the decaying. So it looks like it's been abandoned for 30 years when it's only been like 7.
Well, you know,
some of the angles that you got on some of those videos are just phenomenal. I mean, you do things with that camera on the drone that I just wouldn't even think of doing. And anyway,
it's all about playing. It's all about playing the angles. You got to, because you obviously don't want to crash the drone. And I remember Ken Herron made a video about this, and I feel like I've taken it to the next level by, you know, looking on the other side. But like, if you're going to be flying under a bridge And if you fly under it, and on your camera, you can see the bottom of that bridge. Now you might be further out, but when you see the bottom of that bridge, you know you're going to clear it fine. You know you're not going to hit it. So you got to be actively looking out and making sure you're not going to hit something. And that's huge. What you really want to have is something like OcuSync or Lightbridge, because if you're operating with Wi-Fi and you're trying to fly close to something and you lose signal even for a second, it might mess you up.
Well, not only that, but as has happened to people before, it'll go into return to home and go straight up.
Yes. Well, that happened with my original Mavic Pro. Luckily, I had cleared the bridge all the way under and it flew up the other side. And I didn't even think about it. As it was coming back, I'm like, all right, here it comes. And I'll go, oh, I could have hit the bottom of that bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing about the Mavic 2 Pro, though, it's got that top sensor. So
exactly.
I want to fly under the pier this summer at the shore.
Which one?
Margate City.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll have to use the Mavic 2 Pro because of the sensor you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And also I know that the Phantom has it. I don't know if the Mavic has it, but it's got narrow sensing mode. So what it'll do is it'll use those side sensors and it'll fly slowly and it'll pick up the things on the side and keep you centered so you're not going to hit something.
Right. I mean, I've flown like a manual. I've flown like a Bugs 300 thing because it's completely manual. So it's not going to like you said fly up. It's not going to lose connection. But
yeah,
I've been having an idea for this summer. I was talking to my father who still lives in Oxford, Pennsylvania, which is still pretty rural. And they still have some of the covered bridges around that I kind of remember.
Oh, really?
And I was thinking next time I'm down there to see him, I'm going to have him take me over. I'm going to scout them. If they still look in good condition and they're scenic, I'm thinking about doing a shoot. And I'm going to take a few pictures and send them to you. Maybe we can do some. Have you ever shot a covered bridge?
I haven't. I know of one, but they're like, not only is it covered, but there is so many trees around it that it just wouldn't be worth shooting with a drone. But covered bridges I love them. They're awesome.
I'm going to scout them. I'm going to scout the ones he says are still like in good condition and still open in Oxford. And I'll take some few pictures, send to you. If I see one I think we could fly, let's hook up and
definitely
fly a covered bridge or whatever.
Well, I know that Oxford is a little bit more west, I think so, and almost down near like where the Maryland border is, almost further down there.
Yes, it's not a whole lot west because it sits right on the border of Delaware and Maryland. We're right in that corner.
Gotcha. Well, what I'm saying is, if you go out there, this might be a little bit far, but there's like the East Stroud, or what it's out near Lancaster. They have a ton of trains out there, and they're old trains, and they're really cool. And I haven't been out there to film it, to fly it yet, but I really want to.
Well, maybe that could be a combination because that's that area is not far from Oxford at all. It's like
yeah, exactly,
a half hour west of whatever. Like Oxford's not far from Lancaster County.
Looks like you gave QC guy a good idea. He said he's got a lot of covered bridges near him.
So okay, that's everybody's assignment. Let's all get some great covered bridge footage this summer. Marcus got to fly east.
Now, are you gonna fly through the bridge?
Well, if you're there teaching me, if you're there coaching me, maybe I will, or I'll follow you through.
Well, have either of you guys tried dual pilot mode yet on the Mavic?
No, but we can try that too.
Yeah, I tried it once. It's actually a lot of fun.
Wow. But you tried in a video once where you were doing both, right? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it as more of like a proof of concept, but I actually did it with one of my friends when we were flying around, and I was piloting the drone and he was using the camera, and I was able to maintain line of sight. So I got up and right over this tree, and then he panned the camera to the left and revealed this tower, and it was just so awesome. But I think it's a little bit better with the Inspire too, because you've got the FPV camera on the front. So me as the person flying it, I can always be looking forward. But I mean, the Mavic 2 Pro, it's a lot of fun to just go outside and mess around with. Now,
you think that'll work with one controller being the smart controller and the other one being the standard controller?
Yeah, at first it wouldn't when it first came out. I think it was like, iOS gets all the updates first. But then they eventually trickled it out to Android. So that's definitely a possibility. You'll be able to use both.
And give the smart control to the person doing the camera part of it, right? And they got
they'll be able to have the brighter screen.
Yeah. I'll give you a negative since you don't have it. I've noticed that, and I'm not knocking Android at all, but it seems to be slower to react to the touching the buttons. Like when I open the camera functions up, they're really slow to react to my my input.
Yeah, and you know what? I've seen that with the Crystal Sky also. So you're not alone with that. It's not just your smart controller. I don't know if it's just like the different version of Android that they're running that's only on their devices, but across the board, Android, even when I'm using it on my Pixel, as I said, I like to fly and listen to music. Usually, I'm listening to music on the Pixel and flying with the iPhone.
For some reason, it seems like the iOS devices have always worked a little better. The DJI products.
Yep,
That's what
I
I hear from so many people.
totally agree.
Now,
QC guys asking pros and cons between the Pro 2 and the Zoom. You know what, man? I can't even say that one is better than the other. Anytime anybody asks me which drone to get, I say iPhone, or not iPhone. I say Mavic 2 Pro, just because that's what my favorite is. But there's so many people out there that would rather spend less money, still get a great image out of the Mavic 2 Zoom, and also get the ability to zoom in. I mean, you can zoom in it's like a 96 times optical zoom or whatever it is, and you can zoom in so far. It's nuts.
guess what? Ken told me to get both when I asked him which one to get.
You should get both because they both have their pros and cons. But look, if you're in the position to only buy one, I would say Mavic 2 Pro, but the Zoom is also great.
So that's why I got the Zoom, because I am not going to be the guy that goes in and does a bunch of post production with photography. So the camera on the Zoom is all somebody like me ever needs. But I appreciate people that are more photographic oriented and or looking for better quality. That's why they would get the Pro. But I thought it was cool that they offered both.
Yeah, I agree.
Billy, I'll tell you a story. I flew with Bill, the drone reviewer, when I was in Florida in April. We flew at a place called North Rankin Beach, and they had an abandoned pier, which was a great location to fly it. I discovered it on my first day there. But anyhow, I was standing right beside him on the beach when we were flying. And this was near sunset, so the light was getting low. And I just looked over at his, we both had iPad mini 4s. And I looked over, and because he had I saw the Mavic Pro Classic, I'll call it that.
Mm-hmm.
He had the Mavic Pro 2. His screen was so much brighter from the that 1-inch sensor drawing in more light. Yeah, so I could see it just by looking over his monitor. Oh yeah, that's a lot more light in than my 1 2/3 size sensor.
Yeah, look, I think they're both great drones. It's just like the Osmo Pocket for the Osmo Action. It just suits different people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only negative that you can say is, I hear you and a lot of people say that the Mavic 2, none of the Mavic 2s have the 60 frames per second in 4K that a lot of people really. It's not a big deal to me. I've been dealing with frame rates for a long time, and I think I got this. This is my saying, but there is no best frame rate. There's a proper frame rate.
Yeah, and for me, shooting aerial video, I never.
Yeah, I lost audio too.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello?
You're back,
weird. We all lost it. That was weird.
You know what it is? My AirPods are dying. So
okay.
But yeah, no, what were we talking about?
You were talking about I was saying frame rates.
Yeah, I never find myself wanting to slow down my aerial video. Usually when I'm doing something slow motion, it's because somebody is doing an action and I want to slow it down to make it look like it's in slow motion. But if I'm flying over some trees, yes, I can slow it down to make it look like I was flying slower, but I just fly at the speed that I think I want the clip to be, and boom, I'm good.
Right. Yeah, I don't find a need, again, to put up 60 frames, which is the first kind of slow motion, frame rate there is. I mean, I shoot 30. If I think I'm shooting something cinematic, I go to 24. You know what I mean? If I'm just shooting something that's not special, I'll keep it at 30 frames per second. If I'm saying, this is going to be good, I'm going to knock it down to 24 frames per second.
Yeah.
If I really want to do something crazy where I'm doing something real slow motion, I'll go down to 1080p and put it at 120 or something. So, but frame rates are almost like politics and religion. You don't want to get into it. Everybody has a strong opinion. Everybody thinks they're right about them.
I know, right?
So, I mean, I don't even use the 60 frames per second on the Hero 7. Like, I've used it a couple times, and I don't think the video looks as good. I don't think it transfers over as well to the computer, so I've almost abandoned on the Hero.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I shoot 4K 32, and you know, I don't know. It's reserved for certain scenarios. I never shoot 4K 60 all the time.
Good. I mean, that's again, at whatever you want, whatever frame rate you want, for your own videos. Well, you've heard the story. Peter Jackson, the great director, he made The Hobbit more than 5 years ago, and he was the first guy to ever make a Hollywood movie. He shot in 48 frames per second, right? He thought it was a great idea. Well, it came out, like it, the critics didn't really like it that much or whatever. But since then, guess how many movies have been shot at 48 frames? Major Hollywood movies have been shot at 48 frames since then. Yeah, right. One. Yeah. So Hollywood certainly doesn't want to adapt any. I mean, it's a video game frame rate. Everybody's used to seeing video games and you're a video gamer, right, Billy?
Yeah.
So everybody likes seeing video games at 60 frames per second.
Now we're talking. I play Battlefield 5 and used to do a lot of Call of Duty, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, man. I play a lot of Halo recently. That's what I've been into, okay. And I was a big Call of Duty guy when I was in high school, when it was like in like the peak Call of Duty, like Modern Warfare 2. But with with that new trailer that came out with the new Call of Duty, looks pretty cool. So I'm excited to try it out.
Yeah.
Did you have a video game channel at one point, or?
I did, and I tried to do something with it, but like it's just easier to focus my attention on one channel, just create videos for that, because then you start drawing your attention away. And even though like you can say, "Oh, don't worry, nothing's going to change on this channel," you do divert some of your attention away. So I'm just sticking with the one channel for now, especially like being in school and everything. I don't know. There's just only time for one.
Well, it's a great channel, and I got to tell you, a lot of what I've learned on my DJI drones, quite frankly, came from your videos. And so, the difference that you were talking about earlier, how you prepare for them and set up a script, that's what makes your videos so phenomenal and so
Thank you.
Useful to idiots like me that pick up this drone and try and figure out how to throw it in the air. So.
Hey, what was your first drone? We always debate what your first drone was. I think the first video I ever watched, you were flying like a Phantom 4.
Yep, Phantom 4 was the first one. I bought it. I'd saved up like all summer at a job, like at a local pizza place, and I ended up buying the Phantom 4. I wanted to build my own PC. I didn't have enough money to do that. I'm like, oh man, what can I spend all my money on? Because I was so irresponsible. And the Phantom 4 was like on sale with an extra battery. I go, let's do it. Let me get it. And then, at that point in time, I was like a freshman going in, or no, I just finished my senior year of school, going into freshman year of college. And I was telling my parents, I'm like, yeah, I want to spend my money on this, whatever. And they were like, no. Like, what do you want a drone for? And I bought it. And it's funny. As soon as I started flying it, they were like, oh my, like we were not expecting this. They expected something little and small or whatever. But as soon as you put the Phantom 4 in the air, it's just like, holy crap.
I said Phantom 4. I remember you got the Mavic and the Spark, of course. That that was that was a great time when you drove up to that event. I remember following you that day, and I remember like during the event, like buying it during the event or whatever. And
yeah, I was sitting there in my chair too, looking, buying it.
I did too. I bought it before the event was over, and I remember I was like one of the I got it almost shipped to me right. I mean, whenever it got released at the middle of June, I remember like getting it when the reviewers only had the one that didn't have the controller with them.
Yes. Well, look, DJI really did a good job at stepping up their game in fulfilling their orders, right? Because the Mavic Pro was a disaster. Right. That was really the drone that made them so popular. I mean, before then they were still the biggest company in drones, but once they dropped that Mavic Pro, it was like the floodgates had opened. And since then, they have definitely upped the amount of, I guess, factories they have to produce these drones. But I feel like they have got a pretty good stockpile already accumulated before they even announce something.
Now, we're not a rumor show at all. We don't know anybody at DJ. We don't know anybody at any place or whatever. But and our speculation is only speculation of what we want or whatever. And we've been talking maybe hoping for a Spark 2 this summer. And some people say there'll never be a Spark 2. Other people say there definitely will. I mean, again, I'm not asking if you have any sources or anything, just opinion.
No, I will say that I don't, so I can speak freely. I think that, in my personal opinion, I remember writing an article for Drone DJ, God, probably 8 or 9 months ago, about why we wouldn't see another DJI Spark, and that's because it's placed so perfectly that, like, if they upgraded something, then the Mavic Air might become what is it? Maybe irrelevant. I mean, look, the Mavic Air definitely has certain things that are better than the Spark, but like, okay, let's put a 4K camera inside the Spark and you can only get it for $399 with the remote controller. That's half the price. I mean, that's a big that's a big reason why people might say, oh, let me ditch the Mavic Air. I can shoot 4K video with this thing. So in terms of everything that they can upgrade, I feel like it's in such a perfect position that if they came out with a Spark 2, they'd have to do something that's pretty drastic, something that's definitely a major upgrade over that original Spark. And I don't know. I mean, if they implement anything like a 4K camera or maybe longer range or longer flight time, then you're creeping into Mavic Air territory, and maybe they'll have to drop the price of that.
Right. But of course, a DJI, lots of times they imitate things Apple's done in the past to be successful. And Apple's never been afraid to cannibalize one of their own products. Like they knew when the iPhone came out, would eventually kill the iPod out, which was their most successful product at the time.
Well, here's the thing too, is you would rather cannibalize your own product than have somebody else cannibalize your product. So
yeah, exactly. And not that anybody's out there, not that anybody can or is cannibalizing the Mavic Air at this point.
I know.
Well, you guys were telling stories about ordering that Spark. It was exactly the same thing. The Mavic 2 intro, I was refreshing my computer, and the second it became available to order, boom, hit it while I'm watching the intro on the screen. And to your point, I think I had it in less than a week.
Yeah,
fast.
That's a big thing that they've been pushing too. I remember at the end, they say you can order the Mavic 2 today, and if you place your order, you'll get it in a week. I mean, that's pretty good.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
it's always a mad dash whenever they release something to like get it,
Right. Yeah. So so you're the mind at this is the last Spark we'll ever see now.
Well, I don't know if it'll be the last Spark that we ever see, but here's the thing: is like they kind of have to upgrade everything at the same time. Maybe not at the same time, but around the same time. So maybe if they start at the top with, of course, everybody's talking about a Phantom 5, but if they start at the top with the Phantom, make it a lot better than what the Mavic currently is, then that increases the gap. And then from there, maybe they can increase the Mavic Air. I mean, I see at the end of the day, it's like I think to myself, all right, well, maybe they'll make the Mavic Air better, but then if they do, then you're creeping into that original Mavic Pro territory, which is still selling for $1,000. So it's like they've really got a drone that's slotted for everybody. I mean, if you want to upgrade from the Mavic Air, you just get the Mavic Pro. If you want to upgrade from the Mavic Pro, you just get the Mavic 2 Pro. I mean, they have everything laid out for you.
Right. I mean, the only category they have any competition is we'll say like the under $500 drone. Like, Marcus has the FIMI X8. If you get the Anafi and a refurb, I mean the Zino, there's a FIMI. There's a lot of drones in under 500 that have 4K and 3-axis gimbals now at about the same price point as the Spark. So I don't know if DJI has any interest in how well they do in the low end of the camera, but they do. They've got competitors that are bringing more to the table at about the same price point now. Now, to that being said, most of these, like they don't fly like this. The Spark still flies really well. I mean, it controls are precise. It probably flies better than the rest of the field, except for the Anafi, of course.
The argument, though, that there's something going on, because you can go on DJI's website right now. You cannot buy a Spark. You can't buy it refurbed. You can't
really.
They're out of stock. So, something's going on.
And that's what I'm sitting here wondering is like, what is going to be the next move from DJI? Like what do they have on the table?
Yeah. I mean, again, and the high end, like you just described the high end, plan, but what's the plan at the lowest end? You know, do they want to stay competitive at the low end, or they just want to sell? Well, they don't want to sell Sparks anymore since they're not available. We brought Mark's. I brought this up because he said something about the Phantom 4, and I said you can't buy a Phantom 4. I said not even the refurb. They're all every single Phantom 4 that's in the refurb stores sold out.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm looking right now. I see exactly what you're talking about. You're not able to buy it. I'm interested though.
Checking too, and then refurb. Yeah, so it's not available new, and refurb. You can get the Air still, I think.
Right.
But yeah,
the Air's on that summer sale that starts on the 7th. The Mavic Air and what is the Mavic Zoom, Mavic 2, you know, Zoom are both on sale starting June 7th. I believe like one's $100 off and the other's like $150 off.
Well, I'm looking right now. The original Mavic Pro. It seems like the Platinum has kind of stepped into where the Mavic Pro was. They're selling it for $999. So you can't even buy a brand new Mavic Pro. You can get a refurbished unit, Mavic Pro refurbished for $800, or you can get just the drone with no remote controller. If you, that's out of stock too. So you can't just get the aircraft. You've got to buy a refurb.
And the Mavic Air refurb. Oh no, they still have the white refurb, and it's $639. So they have it on sale for $699. I'm not sure why you'd buy the refurb, but anyway.
No, I'm seeing $799 here on their website.
I thought they said on their summer sale. I could be wrong.
Oh, well, I don't know about sale, but I'm looking on their website right now and it says $799, and that it's crazy because we sit here and you think, oh well, you know, they're gonna do this, but then you think in the back of your mind like, well, they still have the Mavic Air there or something. I mean, they have every single option covered for anybody that wants a drone already. That it's insane.
So let me throw something else out there. What I did so Ron and I have kind of focused on those mid-price drones, and you know, I'm messing around with the Zino and the Fimi and all these things, and until I got the Anafi, none of them really worked that great. So I got to thinking, what if somebody new was getting in? What would they buy? I went out on eBay and I bought not a brand new, but a very lightly used Phantom 4 for $500.
Wow. Is that the original Phantom 4, the standard or the Pro?
The standard, yeah, just not
That's still a great deal.
Yeah, for $500, I mean, holy cow, that's a lot of drone.
You know where they're gonna get you though? The Phantom 4 battery is like $180.
Right.
That's true. It came with 2 batteries. I should say I got 2 batteries for that $500.
That's nice. I'm looking right. Oh, well, actually, the Phantom 4 series battery is out of stock online.
Yeah. Probably those darn parts suppliers again that ripped them off.
Yeah, right.
Real quick, what do you think about the whole story of the, you know, like the parts scandal in DJI?
You know what? I didn't follow it all that closely, so I don't really have anything to say. But I think that DJI is growing so fast as a company that it's hard for them to cover all their bearings. I mean, just like we saw with the Mavic Pro, they couldn't get it shipped out as fast. So I think that this probably gave them like a wake up. It was a wake up call. So now they're going to be able to backtrack and make sure that nothing like that happens again. Right. Got to learn from their mistakes, I guess.
I mean, some rumors say the reason the refurb Phantoms aren't available is because the people they got the parts for, they no longer do business with now because they were scamming them on the price of parts. So, they have to find somebody new to make parts for a product that they never made before, which is kind of an idea.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see what they do next because they already have so much good stuff available that it's only going to be better from here. I would say maybe the next thing we'll see, that's not going to be a huge release, it'll just be like a soft launch, is a new Inspire 2, like a version 2.0 that comes with OcuSync. I think that DJI is slowly going back and replacing all of their drones with OcuSync. It's going to be Wi-Fi or OcuSync. So you're going to see Wi-Fi in those lower tier drones. But if you've got a drone that they're going to put a better operating or a better transmission system in, they're not going to use Lightbridge anymore.
The Inspire
2 has Lightbridge?
Yeah, and it's a big difference. I mean, the Lightbridge 2, I notice a lot more breakup. I notice a lot more interference. I notice that
There goes your video again, Billy. If it's your battery and your
It's his AirPods are going again.
yeah.
Can you hear us, Billy? His iPod. Remember it happened to me that night we were.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna put the AirPods on charge. I'm going right through my computer now.
Yeah, you still sound good. Well, I was doing a show one night. We had the QC guy on, and my iPod was dying on me, and I charged them right for the show, but I plugged them into something that wasn't charging them right. You know, I thought I had a full charge and I didn't.
Yeah, that's the. I've noticed. I've had the AirPods and I've used them daily, and I've noticed my battery is pretty horrible on them now. So I think I might make the upgrade to the second ones, the ones that you can wirelessly charge.
Yeah, and it's you could just check it on your watch, but I didn't even look. You know, it's so easy to check your battery level on your watch, but again, I didn't even check.
So I'm going to display some ignorance here. So my wife just bought me some AirPods, and I've used them a little bit, and I think it's pretty cool. Now you guys are using them right now, and I assume that's Bluetooth to your computer. Both of you are evidently on Apple products. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
I use it on my PC.
Here's the beauty of it, Marcus. If you have the earpods and you're all Apple, like I could sit here, I could pair them with the phone. I could pair them with my, my iMac, 27-inch iMac, my laptop. If I had my iPad, or I could move them around to any of my Apple devices.
Well, here it's almost a blessing and a curse at the same time, because I'm sitting here talking to you guys and I'm getting texts on my phone, and as my AirPods are connected to my computer, I'm getting dings from my phone through my AirPods. So it's like it's coming through twice from both devices at the same time. So it's annoying because I'm trying to talk and it's like dinging in my ears, but also if I'm like on my computer listening to whatever, I'll hear maybe the phone ring from something else. So the way that Apple devices work together, man, that ecosystem is just so money. You can't get anything better than Apple's ecosystem.
I used to just I stayed away because Apple was so proprietary. I was always the Android guy, staying away from it. And then at work, they gave me an iPhone one day, and I was like, "Oh, I get it." Now I'm practically all Apple, except for the PC, because I game.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? Well, hold on. All right, never mind. I was going to talk about the Mac Pro because I kind of read about it, but I don't want to talk about it until I see the event. So
yeah, I saw highlights. You're probably going to like what you see.
I saw the picture of it too, and it looks almost like the old cheese grater that everybody loved.
Yeah, I think that I will like it, but I think that my wallet will be giving me the middle finger through my pocket.
Dude, you don't even know. You don't even. I was shocked.
Don't spoil it. I want to be able to like fall back in my chair.
Yeah.
If you can't spend the money, then Final Cut should fly on it for you, huh?
Well, hey, I use Final Cut Pro all the time. I've got it down to a science. I've got I think it renders videos so fast. I love it. You pay for it once. You don't have to go and continue to pay monthly for it. It's awesome.
Quick question. I know you played around with Premiere Pro, but you compared it and you went back to Final Cut.
So I find that like my tutorial videos, which I can just go, shoot them, edit them, quickly chop them up, I throw them into Final Cut, and everything just works fine. I use it for that, but like if I'm doing a edit, like a vlog where I edit my drone footage, and I want it to be like a little bit more artistic, I use Premiere Pro because I think they have more options in terms of editing, and I think the color grading is a little bit more in depth. Like you're able to really, it's almost like Photoshop in a way. You're able to edit these videos like you're editing a photo, and I like that.
We had a conversation before we came on air, Marcus and I. I was telling him, I want to get Final Cut, but I use iMovie. But I said, but when I do a cinematic video, I use DaVinci Resolve.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you're talking about, the color wheels in DaVinci Resolve. You could do so much. You could change the video almost entirely in DaVinci Resolve. And I used Resolve when it only was a color editor, a color grader, but now it's a full feature editor. And I've never really learned my way around all their editing features, but I still pop in, just do the color grading and then pop it out into something else. But I want to learn it, how to use the editing part of it, not just the color grading software.
Here's the thing: if you're using Final Cut or if you're using iMovie, you're going to be able to hit the ground running with Final Cut Pro. Right. They're very similar. It's frame by frame editing. You get a lot more customization with Final Cut Pro. It's a lot more powerful, but I mean, it's also still very similar in terms of the UI, in terms of where settings are located. So it's easy to jump into.
Right. I did see a note from a related note from WWDC today, Billy. Are you aware of LumaFusion? It's a full-featured video editor for I don't know if it's Android or I bet I know it's on iOS for the iPad and iPhone, and they're gonna come out. Maybe it's only compatible with iOS. What is it? 12 now? We're going to
13 is the next one.
But LumaFusion 2.0. Have you played around with LumaFusion at all?
I haven't. I know that Ken has. I also know that this guy that I follow on YouTube, Jonathan Morrison, has posted a lot of videos about LumaFusion and editing on the iPad. And I heard it works really good. So being able to like put those videos together on the fly if you're on the road would be easy. But for me, at the end of the day, I need a keyboard and a mouse when I'm editing, and there's nothing that's better than that. I mean, I don't want to say call me old-fashioned because I don't know, but I just think that it's like really easy when I've got my mouse and I've got my keyboard and I can do these shortcuts and move all around. Whereas sometimes I feel like touchscreen control is a little bit clunky.
But remember that the killer feature LumaFusion is worse with the pen. You should
that's kind of like your mouse. The pen is the mouse.
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm going to display some more ignorance here. So I would wonder, okay, so editing on an iPad, I've never tried it. How the heck do you get your files from your drone or whatever your device is to the iPad? I mean, you'd have to upload them someplace else, right?
Yeah. Well, I know, for instance, I've seen videos where people just put it in their iCloud, and
well, that's okay. So I thought of that, but I thought, well, okay, that's a whole nother step.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Well, like Billy said, if you're on the road, geez, so why, it wouldn't be convenient.
But you could put a card reader in the Lightning slot. They have adapters. You could put a card reader on and load it directly. And I know people say that. Is it Ken that said that it handles his 4K video faster than some of his computers?
Yeah, it does. I've seen it before, and it's pretty good. Something about Apple, they just can render out videos really fast,
even on an iPad device.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
well, guys, I can't thank you enough for having me on. Had fun talking about drones. Had fun talking about Apple. I am sitting here still refreshing. I want to watch this keynote.
Yeah, but yeah. Thanks so much for coming on tonight. It was a great show, and I'm glad somebody else is not just Marcus and I talking about how good the Anafi is. We got somebody with a big channel talking about it now.
Look, we've got to have a part 2 to this. I say in a month or two we should let me come back on, because I'm sure after flying it for longer, I'll have some more things to say, and hopefully I'll be posting some videos by then, and hopefully you guys will have some more to say about it too after flying it.
And if we ever do that cover bridge shoot, we'll take our Mavic 2 Pros, but we'll also bring the footage with the Anafi.
Again, that thing is so small that it's like stupid not to bring it. It's so easy to just throw in your bag. It's like, why would you not bring it?
Right. And like you said, with that charger, you could be charging your car on the way or something.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter what device you have. Even we're talking about iPads here. If you had a USB-C cable, you could charge it off the iPad.
Exactly. So, to wrap things up, I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. I'm sorry we didn't get the more questions. Marcus and I were kind of fanboys with Billy here. Maybe the next time we won't be. So, big ears, and we'll talk to the chat room more. But
it was awesome talking to you guys. We'll have to stay in touch about our Anafis.
Definitely.
Sounds good, Billy.
Marcus, you have any final thoughts for the night?
Yeah, well, just to echo the fact that the goodness of this little drone. So anybody that doesn't, that is on the fence, I'm going to say get off that fence, because you won't be disappointed. And then secondly, Billy, I just so appreciate you coming on our little show. I think we had maybe 22 or 24 viewers at the most there. So I personally really appreciate it, and I know Ron does too. So thank you.
No, of course. I will never pass up an opportunity to talk drones, because sometimes I try to talk to people and it's like you're talking to a wall. So it was a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Great.
On the way out here, can we do a peace out and all together?
As Ken Heron, apparently I say it like piss, no, not peace. Sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm editing it and I go, oh man, it really sounds like that.
Remember, I'm from the same area as you, so I know the accent. They're not from. Well, Ken Aaron is from this area, but
yeah, he is.
But I know your accent better, so that doesn't sound like that to me.
Ken Heron always makes fun of my accent. I don't even think I have one.
Yeah.
Fun of everything. Let's face it.
I know he does.
That's his job.
Yeah. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, guys, and peace out.
Peace. Peace. See ya.